we're going to have some remarks this by Muhammad Alim Ali to begin with, and also with Adila Muhammad. So so let's get started. Muhammad, wants to go ahead, a dear brother from the West Coast. I could call him my homeboy.
Salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Uh, Praise be to Allah. I'd like to make a student. This is a student report. Praise be to Allah. With the name of Allah, the merciful Redeemer, Lunetics is a time that has come, and our lives should be based on the human definition because of the way we are formed in the human environment. As earthly physical creatures, humans can transcend to the cosmic mind or stay within the realm of lower development. The Quran speaks of lower human development, the nafs amara, and it's also spoken of as the lower chakras. The idea of being human has two forms. One form is the form of the human anatomy, which can be explained as cell division, and genetic authority interacting with the nature found in the attraction and the repulsion of atoms. The other human form lives in the abstract, providing an endless potential to human development. Thinking produces the abstract. Thinking can analyze and synthesize. Man means mind. Thinking comes from the mind, not the brain. The brain houses the mind. What causes thinking is what takes place in involution. Thinking is a mechanical electric process of neurons, and neurons are the fundamental units of the brain, the cells responsible for receiving sensory, reacting with one another. The evolution of thinking comes from the process of neurons. Thinking is an electrical action. Allah created the human being and wired the human up with electrical impulses of the most refined manner. The human electrical composition is an ayat, running of wires to light up cities. So when you talk about the impulses, the electrical impulses in the human being, the electricity, that's a sign to wiring up the cities. Lunetics is with the sociology of advanced human form, which is the apex of human life, and it has a fithra base found in nature. The science of sociology, in short terms, is an observation of guided and unguided natural propensities in the present academic environment. Sociology is defined from the outside, not the inside. In a conclusive state, sociology is the science and study of the origin, development, organization, and functioning of human society. In sociology, human nature is not seen in its masculine and feminine natural flow as it goes out and takes in within nature. The human being is a walking universe, and this is verified conceptually in Lunetics, stating every Arabic letter has a corresponding body part, meaning an environmental meaning, an abstract meaning, and pointing to depths of meaning. The Aleph, the first letter of the alphabet of Arabic, has a body meaning, connection to the spine, pointing to strength, an environmental meaning, a column that supports and an abstract meaning pointing to a formal agreement of ideological strength. Pointing to Aleph and the spine, Allah made it possible for the human being to be wired up. The wire that we see, the human beings are called nerves. The human city is wired up. Human beings have been sociologically separated from the true nature of human life by language and the wrong, deceitful displaying of language. Professor Carl Manham, in writing about the method of social science, states the American work is confined to the methodology requirement of concrete tasks. This view can be placed under the concept of involution because the concrete is uninvolved. Lunetics is becoming the human cultural epistemology, meaning a branch of thought that investigates the origin, nature, method, and limits of human knowledge. The human mind engaged with nature has no limit to knowledge growth. Without the fitra, human life becomes worthless, and human beings will remain in a state of ignorance. Human beings can be placed in an environment of ignorance by human ignorance or deception. Human overstimulation is also a tool of human ignorance and deception. The Quran says Allah is the Rabb al-Alameen, not the misguided human intellect and human ego. Nunetics functions from its own perspective. A perspective is a point of departure, and it is spelled with a noon at the top, making a consonantal connection. The noon represents a seed of potential growth and knowledge, and all languages in place comes out of matter. And the tie is an indication of being connected with autonomy. We are all tied together. Language ties us together. Human knowledge comes from human interaction with matter, the human self, and high aspiration. The Quran uses the word anzelna, meaning being sent down. You record what you see in nature, you record what you see in human makeup, and you record from inspiration. Imam Muhammad says, don't make changes on the nature made by Allah. So what I am saying is, if it is done in nature, it's okay. This note, the Quran is protected by nature, not so much by Hafiz, but by the fitra pattern found in nature. The Quran and nature are identical twins. When you see and hear one, you see and hear the other. You can lie about the Quran, and the only way you can destroy the Quran is to destroy nature. And as you attempt to destroy nature, you're destroying your human direction and human life. Allah in the Quran says, look at what happens to those before you. One of the most amazing phenomena about this process is the symbolic, metaphorical approach to what Allah has laid out for the human mind in the universal context. In the approach to nunetics, there is backup in the form of the nature in the Quran, and the Quran nature approaches to human mental development. Imam Muhammad said, nature is sacred, and the Quran was revealed so man can get nature's blessings. This is repeated from the aforementioned. So what I'm saying is, if it is done in nature, it's okay. But if it's not already done by nature, there is an example in nature for it, then it's not okay. For nature is sacred. God has not put more blessings in anything other than he has put in nature. Let us not get caught up in the he word when you talk about God, because it points to an outgoing influence, not human flesh. And he only revealed the Quran to help man, the human being, to go to nature in a better and more productive way. And that is what the Bible says too, that you may have abundance of life and that you may have an increase. And God in the Quran gave you increase. And the prayer for increase in Quranic Arabic is Zidni ilman. That is increase for me in knowledge. Because of God's revelation, we get abundance, or a great increase in all things that is good. But nature is where it is, where it's at. He directs us to nature. That is where it comes from. Also, Quranic revelation is an expression of nature. Everything is an expression of nature except Allah, God. Even revelation itself is an expression of nature. I'm telling you what I know, what I am not guessing. Even the Quran is an expression of nature. That means that the Quran is an expression of science. Even the Quran is an expression of nature. Call the words of God. But at least God let us know that these words are in creation. He says there are signs in you, ayats in you, ayats in the heavens, ayats all between the heavens and the earth. Heavens and earth are symbols of knowledge, ayats in the earth, ayats in humans, yourself an ayat. And then he refers to the mother book. Say it is the mother of book, the nature that he created the mother of the books. So the Quran, the mother of the book is the fitra, the basic pattern that's Allah created for the human being. Nunetics is the insight into the meaning of the fitra-based letters, which deal with the science of seed letters and how they produce root words, which sprouts branches of knowledge. And Imam Muhammad says, you imams, let the educators come forth and teach my people. They don't have to take your place. Just let them teach my people. The language of the Quran is verified in nature, and science comes from nature. When you look at nature, you're looking at the Quran. And when you read the Quran, you're reading nature. Anything that naturally comes out of nature is fitra, because it comes from a pattern of atoms mixing, and nature is feminine because it can be influenced. Pyramid building, culture, economics, education, science, family, physical science, mathematics, the UMA, scientific investigation, wealth building, trade and commerce, self-control and discipline, technology, and the human development are all evolutions. I encourage the learners to move out in your comfort zone, enter into the depths of meaning and bring out its treasures of knowledge. The application of it is to advance the community. Imam Muhammad says, dust to industry. The Quran is not about blind cultural assimilation. The Quran says, and among the signs is the variation of your languages and your colors. We ought to look at human beings in the social context. And by conclusion, Imam Muhammad says, you want to get up with the establishment, you want to be the producers, the people that make things happen and shape the future for the rest of us, then you better take these 3 steps. Mother Nature, human brain productive life, and the guidance of Almighty God. Praise be to Allah. And I thank you for allowing me to present this. And I'm encouraging all the learners to grow it, to increase, and to present things that are good for the community. Thank you very much. Praise be to Allah. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Thank you, brother. Praise be to Allah. That, of course, my dear brother is a professional instructor, teacher, and has been doing that for years, and it shows. You know, his depth of thought and the way he's organized his thoughts to be very thorough and giving a good feel on all levels of just what the whole process, the whole methodology, the whole science and technology called Nunetics is all about. So really appreciate you, brother, and look forward to hearing from you quite a bit more.
praise, praise be to Allah. I'm just trying to move forward with everyone else. Praise be to Allah.
It's awesome. You know, and we have a sister that's going to come before us in just a minute. And I was at a class earlier today here in Atlanta. Imam Kareem is doing an excellent job of carrying the information and the light to all those who are willing to receive it here in the Atlanta area. And Adila was there, and I've been involved as an instructor, as a teacher for many years, at all levels. And the one thing I found about a sign of intellectual progress is that it's not necessarily comes from somebody who can regurgitate information, just throw up on you when after they take it in, but rather someone who asks good questions. And Adila has that kind of mind. She asks extremely good questions, and she asked several of them. I think she has some more left when the class was over today, but our time ran out. And if she's with us, Adila Muhammad, would you show your face in the place, please, ma'am? I know I saw your name. Adila, are you with us? Unmute yourself and turn your camera on, please. I'm not seeing.
Assalamu alaikum.
There she is. Walaikum salam. Hear you loud.
I'm really impressed by the previous presentation. That was quite interesting, and I can hardly wait to get the recording so that I can listen to that several more times. What I have to present to you today is very short, and I shared it with instructor Bilal because I just thought that it allowed him to see how I had understood some of the concepts that he has been teaching. So it's very short, and let me see if I can bring it forward. All right, just a moment. I'm a little bit IT challenged. And okay, here we go. Beating the wife, an expression of lessons learned. I saw a heifer. Wow, what a heifer it was. My emotional wife lost it. Emotion so strong rose up in me. I wanted to get to the heifer. Red, orange, and yellow flames danced in excited fury. All day, I'm thinking of the heifer, dreaming of the heifer while asleep at night. Song lyrics are on repeat in my head, dedicated to the heifer. My imagination was so active, I said to myself, what is going on? We don't do this. I've not seen this side of myself. Where did this come from? The wife is out of control, not listening or responding to reason, ignoring the neocortex messages. I called my sister in another city. I told her all about this wayward wife. She said, do ABC. I said, oh no, I can't dare do ABC. We continued to talk. As the conversation came to a close, she said, well, Adila, if you're not willing to do ABC, I don't think you're going to get any resolution. So all day I'm talking to myself to do ABC. The next day, I took the big step and I did ABC. I immediately felt the flames die down. The neocortex was back on board. I had to beat the wife. The wife calms down, returns to her lane, and now I'm keeping an eye on her because I know the flame is on a very low simmer and I must manage the wife so that it will not rage out of control again. The end.
Wow, beautiful.
All
Anita,
right, that is.
you want to share any other thoughts with us?
Well, I was so, it opened up my mind just having the perspective of the wife really being community or being an expression of emotion and not a physical person. So that was so empowering for me to hear this new concept because that's always been an area that was troubling for me. So that's what led me to kind of share this with Instructor Bilal because it was so meaningful for me.
Yes, wonderful. You know, it's one thing to teach boys and men and get them to a certain level of intellectual activity, but it's a whole nother one, you know, an entirely working at the highest level of contribution when that level of thinking can be imported to our mothers, you know, to our females, to our girls, because you make the men and the women, the boys and the girls. So if you're operating at your highest level of capacity, then the world is in good shape. So we want to thank you, and you did an excellent job. There was a lot of thought in that, and a lot of feeling too, you know. And that's another thing. It's one thing to hear some dry logic, you know, which some people are very good at, but it's another one to hear something that has that moisture in it, you know, that thing that gives life to dead earth, to dirt. And you certainly brought that, you know, so I felt it. We appreciate you. And again, we're looking forward to a whole lot more of the same kind of presentation and sharing from you. And I appreciate the questions that you asked on a continuous basis to deepen your understanding and further your knowledge base. So thank you very much, Adila. And I see that our international instructor Bilal, looks like he's ready to get this linguistic party started.
Sure am. I brought my linguistic dancing shoes with me. I got them on. And we're going to do the split, the cha-cha, the twist, and all of that. And we're going to have a good time tonight because the information is going to be so profound. If you think the last 5 classes under the title of the meaning of a woman in both the Bible and the Quran, if you thought that that was stimulating, man, oh man, wait until you hear this 3 to 4 to maybe even 5-part series on her counterpart, the meaning of man in both the Bible and the Quran. So if you're Christian, put your Christian thinking caps on. If you're Muslim, put your Quranic thinking caps on. If you're anything else, whatever that is, put that thinking cap on tonight because you're going to need it. Take notes, take good notes. I'm going to be speaking slow enough for you to capture certain concepts and certain terminology that I'm using. And all of it is designed to stimulate and activate your human intellect. And I'm going to say this to William Safi. He might not understand it right away until he listens to the playback, but what he has done tonight as host in practically every single word that he's given to you has been inspired from on high. I know it when I hear it. The advice that he has given you as an audience, the direction that he has given you as an audience is absolutely profound. I would actually consider it to be statesman-like. Yeah, he could be our representative at the UN, the NU, or any other thing. You know, we'll hope that it'll be at the NUNETICS Institute level of representation. He's certainly earned it. Thank you to our other co-host, Kareem Abdul Salam. I know he's on the line tonight, but he's a little bit under the weather. I believe he's just out of some surgery procedure. So we make dua for him. We continue to make dua for each other, for William's son, Rahim, and others who are convalescing right now. And there are also people who have had some loved ones who have become deceased since the last time we met. I think maybe 1 or 2 of our learners have siblings that have passed in the last week or 2. So we also make dua for the good fortune of the families that they have left behind, and that Allah continue to take care of them as he is taking care of all of us. So let us begin on this 10th day of September 2023. I, of course, am your international instructor, Benjamin Bilal. This is the UOLC. You don't know what that stands for? Tell them what that stands for, William, before you disappear.
University Online Learning Course.
That's right. All right. So every time we open up, whoever opens up, make sure that you let the audience, especially if there's some new people here, let them know what those call letters mean. UOLC, the University Online Etymology Course. Thank you so much to our dear instructor, who you heard at the very beginning, top of this particular program, Muhammad Alim Ali, who did a fantastic, he did more than I thought he was going to do. And it was absolutely profound. It's one that you have to listen to in the replay and stop and pause and take notes and continue and that kind of thing. Because as William said, it was absolutely scholarly, but that's this brother's profession. He is a professional teacher in a real school. So he took the time to meticulously put together these notes. We've been waiting on him for some time, but he finally came through, and I'm sure that he's happy that he came through in the way that he did. So thank you also for his contribution. So I think everybody's in the saddle. The way I know is when I reach number 33 on the learner list. I look up there and I look at how many people are presently participating. When I see 33, I know we're ready to go. That's a very significant number for me and for many people in this audience. You know, Imam W.D. Muhammad taught for 33 years as a leader over a particular community of people in North America. He taught for 33 years, and I believe the anniversary of his passing is today, September 10th, if I remember correctly, 2008. So we also pray for those whom he has left behind, and we pray for ourselves to gain more and more knowledge, substantial knowledge, And not just any kind of knowledge, but knowledge that actually benefits the growth and development of the true human within. And many of us have done that under his tutelage. Some of you have been under the tutelage of others. Some of you are pretty much self-taught and have kind of made your way through life and through the advancement in education and all of that, getting your degrees and powwowing with some of the top people, top scholars in this world. Some of you have been around the world. So whichever way you got here, we're just happy that you're here. You don't have to have come through any particular door, any particular leadership, any particular commitment to anybody or anything. Those of you who are consciously committed to the messages of the Quran, though, we consider you to be a very, very special type, a very, very special people, because that means you're committed to the word of the source creator. Those of you who follow other orientations, those of you who follow the books of the Bible in terms of the Old Testament and the New Testament, and the Jewish people among us who follow the words of the Torah, the Tanukh, as others may call it, the Septuagint, as others may call it, we welcome you equally as much as we welcome the ones who call themselves Muslims. We're all members in a united human family, and that's what I have been trying my best to promote for all of the time that I have been teaching online, in-house, out of the house, you know, in some of your houses. That's my message. My message is for humanity. And for as far away from true humanity as the world has actually gotten, I feel doubly and triply dedicated and responsible for helping to bring the true message back that will help reinstall true humans into human vessels. And I'm not trying to do it just because you're Muslim, because you could be Christian and be a much better human being than many Muslims that I've met. Or you can be a Christian and go to church every Sunday and sing and shout hallelujah and all of that, but you're much worse than the average Muslim that I've met. You can be a Jew. I have a good friend who's a Jew. I was just recently back in touch with him after about 20 years of not being able to find him. And it's like we never parted, because we find the similarities between our belief systems and we try to advance the good within those similarities. And we excuse the things that we have that are not in common, or that might even be the antithesis of what we believe. And we ask Allah to work all of that out in his divine way. We're not to be the judges of other people and what they say they believe or do not believe. The Quran says, La ikraha fid din. That means let there be no compulsion. There's no browbeating people about what they believe and trying to get them to trying to get them to forcefully accept, or upon force upon them, accept what you believe. That's not the way of the Quran. That's not the way of nature. Nature says, come one, come all. And if you reject what nature has to offer you, then you have to suffer the consequences. Nature gives you a world full of food to eat. But if you choose to not eat and become, you know, anorexic or whatever, then that's not nature's fault. The abundance was there waiting for you, but you made the choice to not partake. So it's the same thing when it comes to this so-called religion stuff. You can take it, accept it, believe it, eat from it, spit out the part you don't like and all of that. That's all on you, and that's between you and your source creator. That has nothing to do with me trying to force my beliefs on you, or you trying to force your belief on me or others. It doesn't go that way. All right. So I wanted to say that as a preface to the message that I'm going to deliver to you today, and that is the meaning of the word man. The word man appears in all of our scriptures in different forms. Unfortunately, when we get down to the English word man, many different kinds of words from other languages are translated into the English language as man, M-A-N. And we read these things in the Bible or even in the Quran, and we say man, the human, the man, the human being, man. And we think that it's the same word being used over and over again by the source creator, but it's not. There are many different words for what we are translating into English as man, and that's what we're going to be examining today. And I'm going to present this to you. You'll hear it in the very first part of what I have to say in a very surprising way, but a way that should be accepted readily and heartily by the average one of you who has sense. Let me pull up my notes. Okay. And away we go. The meaning of man, M-A-N, in the Bible and the Quran on this Sunday, September 10th, 2023. The English word man, which means male or female human. That English word man means mind, M-I-N-D. One who thinks or one who reflects. That's what the word M-A-N means. It does not mean male biology. It does not mean man in terms of the one with all the muscle. It does not mean man as the one who just goes out to take care of a family and has a woman at home and some children at home and that kind of thing. As a biology, as a sex gender, that's not what the word man means. The word man is also related to the English word moon. You can hear the similarities in their pronunciation. Both have the letters M and N in them. Man, moon. Now, how are these words man and moon related? Because the moon reflects the light of the sun. The words moon and man are related because just like the moon reflects the light of the sun, the man or the mind is also reflecting the light of the sun, if you understand what the sun means as a symbol. So let's look at that. Now, this picture beneath it says that the moon does not have its own light. That's a very important factor to consider. The moon, science tells us, does not have its own light. So you see the sun here on the left. You see the moon here accepting to be influenced by the light of the sun. And it is the acceptance and the intaking of that light which provides light for the part of the moon that is facing the sun and its overwhelming light. So the moon has the type of surface that serves to reflect the light of the sun. It absorbs that light and then it reflects that light so that people like you and I here on Earth can see it and benefit from it. So again, take home message. The moon does not have its own light. The moon reflects sunlight. Likewise, the mind does not have its own light. When you got here, you knew nothing. Absolutely nada. Where did you get all of these degrees and diplomas and certificates? You got it from reflecting the light of the social environment that you were born into. That's how you got it. You weren't born with it. So the mind, I repeat, is just like the moon. Those of you who are studying in the field of psychology, it would do you a real big service if you would study the properties of the moon and how it does what it does. It's going to give you tremendous insight into what the mind is capable of doing. And all of those craters that you see in the moon, it's an inside job. It's not the product of an outside invasion of the moon by missiles or anything else. It's an internal job. And that's how most of us are. The reason why we have holes in our logic, it's an inside job. We're doing that to ourselves. So the mind does not have its own light. It reflects the sunlight, so to speak, of social norms and cultural interests. Social norms, ideas that people come up with and institute as logic, along with the things that we are interested in culturally speaking. Tribal life, environmental circumstances, and what they dictate we should do. That's the actual sunlight that human beings and their worlds are lit up by. Social norm, social establishment, cultural interests. The sun is a symbol of how social logic is distributed incrementally throughout the society. You see how the sun comes up And it actually distributes its light first on a particular part of the earth. And then as it continues to rise, then more and more of the city or the town or the state or the country gets lit up based on where the sun is, as it shines its light in increments, in measures, so that by the time it pinnacles and becomes 12 o'clock high, most of that environment in terms of the land is able to share in the blessings of that sunlight. But the other side of the planet is not getting it at that particularly same time. You see? So the sun is doing an incremental job in terms of the distribution of its light. And that's exactly how social logic operates in the world. Everybody doesn't wake up at the same time. Literally, everybody doesn't wake up at the same way. If it's daytime where I am, it's going to be nighttime where somebody else is. And even in places where we're both experiencing the same time of sunrise, it doesn't mean that everybody who's under that particular influence is going to wake up when the sun begins to beat upon their eyelids. You might be so inundated by sleep that is not enough to wake you up. I'm speaking on different levels as I'm telling you this. So civilization is actually the product of the proper development of social logic. Civilization, the reason why people act in a civilized manner and they begin to share that particular civilized behavior with other people who are strangers to them in the moment, but they begin to share that civilized behavior with other people, and that behavior catches on as being something that is conducive to our staying together in this area, working together, working the fields together, sharing the food together, sharing the water together, and all of those things. Civilization is a result of people becoming more enlightened as to what human needs actually represent. See? So me saying it's good for me, if I can raise to the level of consciousness that says if it's good for me, it must be good for somebody else, even if I don't know who they are, even if I don't know their names and their cultures and their customs and their clothing and their food. But I do know that they are enough like me in terms of what I'm looking at and believing is another human like me. Then if I share my norms, see, my social concerns, my civilized interests, if I share them with this next person, boy, oh boy, I can pretty much close my eyes on them when I turn my back. I don't have to worry about them coming to pillage me and rape my wife and steal my children. I don't have to worry about any of that because I know that the sunlight of social civilization, see, social norms, has also dawned on those people. And it's the spreading of that enlightenment that represents the exact same thing as the spreading of the sun, as the sun continues to rise and inundate the environment with its influences. And its influences allows for everybody who's in that area to be able to see better. You get more sight. When it comes to social enlightenment, you get more insight into how human beings are and how human beings should be and could be under the circumstances which will allow for greater and greater progress for the human being mentally, morally, and even spiritually. So we're going through this sunrise every time we come into more and more civility, more and more social enlightenment. That's the sunrise for the human being. So that's the sun as a symbol of social logic. It has to distribute that logic. That's our job, distribute the logic. The moon is a symbol of the individual mind, which reflects social logic. This is so beautiful when you understand. The moon is not social logic. There's nothing about the moon when it comes out at night that suggests that you go outside with a whole bunch of people like yourself. The moon suggests that you go home and be in the quietude of your own individual thinking capacity. It's the time when you want to meditate. People look at the moon and they meditate, they contemplate, because the source creator has cut off your access to being able to see your environment, except for what's absolutely immediately in front of you. You can see that in the sunlight. pardon me, in the moonlight. You can see what's absolutely right here. But a few feet down, a mile down, no, you're not going to see that unless you have street lamps and street lights and floodlights and that kind of thing. The Fitra, nature herself, will not allow you to see that far. And if there's a wooded area, man, you can forget it. You'll hear some strange sounds and you won't know what's going on out there, scurrying around in the leaves and flying and landing and hooting and howling and all that. No, your mind says, I better get to some safety. So the moon encourages you to go into the quietude of your own domain. Huh? What is that saying to us? It's saying that moonlight as a symbol is the symbol of how the individual's mind is able to contemplate, is able to quiet itself down, is able to go into another level of brain wave activity that allows it to become calmer, because you're not out there worrying about the boogeyman, because the boogeyman is not necessarily out there worrying about you. He's just as afraid to be outside in the dark of nature as you are. It was only when they developed all of this city life that the boogeyman and the criminal felt like they had options now. They could actually rob you 2 o'clock in the morning because there's street lights on and they know how to get away in the street lights and the car lights and, you know, all of those other things that they can use. But when it comes to operating in nature, nature says I better wait until the sun comes up before I even do anything nefarious, because I have the same deficit that the person who I'm robbing would have. I can't see, you see. So that's the moon. It reflects light. Time for you to go inside of yourself. Start asking yourself some hardball questions about how you're living. That's the moonlight in you. The sunlight has to ask hardball questions about how you're going to survive out there in the social world. The moon, dealing with the personal world. Sun, external world. Moon, internal world. I'm making this as simple as I can, and I know most of you are getting this. So the moon is reflecting. I'm going to give you a quick Quranic reference because I'm being moved to do that spiritually. The Quran has a surah called Surah Al-Falaq. Al-Falaq. I'm capitalizing the consonants because that's where the important messages are. In the F, the L, and the Q. This L just means the. It's a definite article. So the real word is Falaq. F-L-Q. Now, I want you to know, or see at least, that in the word reflect, if you take off the prefix, which is R-E, then you're dealing with the F, the L, you have the E, and then you have the C and the T. But if you were to listen very carefully to what you're saying, you'll hear reflect with a K sound and then the T ending. So the word falaq and reflect are saying the same thing. If you have consonantal connections, you're going to have similar or the same meanings. So you have the F in falaq, you have the F in fleck, once you take off the prefix re. You have the L in falaq, you have the L in flecked. You have the Q, which is a guttural from the back of the throat, cough, and it is in the same family of pronunciation with the K sound, ka, from the back of the throat. So you can interchange them as long as they're in the same part of the mouth in terms of their pronunciation. So when you think about reflecting, you're thinking about thinking about something. That's what you're thinking about. You're thinking about something you were thinking about. If you're reflecting, you're doing that over and over again. So what are you doing? You're revisiting in the mind certain things that you have experienced. In other words, you're shining the light again on a particular set of circumstances or situations that you previously encountered. You are reflecting on that instance, that circumstance, that happening, whatever it is. All right. So if you go back, and this is for anybody, you don't have to be a Muslim to read the Quran, and read that next to last chapter of the Quran called Al-Falaq. It's translated as the dawn. Surah Al-Falaq, the dawn. the daybreak. Let's keep it going here. The day break. Look at these consonantal connections. The B is a labial and is pronounced from the same basic part of the mouth as the F. You have to use your lips, one or both of your lips, to pronounce these letters. They're called the labials or lip sounds. So F, you have to use the bottom lip. B, you use both lips. As long as they're in that area of the mouth, they can be interchanged in language. Believe me, this process of nunetics and consonantal connections is going to broaden your vocabulary and your thinking capacity to a degree that you never knew was even possible, not to mention your children and your children's children. So F in felak related to F in fleck, related to the B in break. L has only one other letter, no matter what the language, one other letter to be interchanged with in the letter L, which means that your tongue has to touch the top of your mouth, the roof of your mouth, the palate, the top palate. L, the only other letter is R, where your tongue touches, but it trills at the top. No other letter is considered to be a liquid except for the letters L and R. So they're interchangeable. So this R in break is interchangeable with this L in felak and in flecht. And the K, that's common sense. You see the Q sound, as we said, it's a guttural from the back of the throat. The K sound is a guttural from the back of the throat, and the K in break is interchangeable. So that means that you're going to find some similar meanings between felak, reflecting, and break, as in day break, when something here separates to create something over there. Darkness is being separated now because the light is on the scene. That's what dawn is. That's what daybreak is. When you break, you separate. And when you separate, you leave one thing of a particular substance or nature or activity over here. Those things that were operating in the dark, when the light comes, then the darkness must eventually be dispelled. Society actually is going through a type of felak as we speak, with all of the activities you see going around you in the political world, in the economic world, in the cultural wars and cultural world, and whatever you're looking at, LGBTQA, I don't even know the other alphabet, whatever you're looking at, the religious discrimination and the racial upset and upheavals and all, and the cultural and all of that and stuff going on in Ukraine and the Russians and oh man, all of these divisions that you're looking at, they represent a tremendous break in the fabric of what should be true humanity. All these religions warring with each other, that's artificial. We should all be united. Look in the mirror, you all look alike, except for maybe skin tone. What else? That's about it. You know, you got some really, really shrewd manipulators trying to take the things that your source creator created for you naturally, like a penis and a vagina, and tell you if you don't think you were supposed to have one when you were born, we can change that for you. See how sick this world has become? So they're taking what they see as a movement in the world towards further enlightenment, and they're trying to stave off that sunlight. They're trying to stave off that urge in human society to want to see better, to want to be better, to want to perform in a more excellent way. You have some weird manipulators of human nature in the world right now in positions of significant power that are doing their level best. Their unlevel best, actually, because they're creating an imbalance in your human soul. And that has dire consequences. When the soul becomes intentionally imbalanced, that has dire consequences on the people who fall for that particular scheme. Well, let's continue. So all of these words are related, is the point. The sun is also symbolic of the conscious, rational mind. Listen carefully. You know, when the intellect, the human mind, and its intellectual component goes about dissecting information, you know, information comes in sometimes in ways that if you try to absorb all of it at the same time, you're going to inundate yourself and become overwhelmed by information. So in school, they say, well, read this particular book first, or look at that video first before you look at the movie. Look at this short video, this introductory video, because the mind operates best when you feed it how? Incrementally. See, in the same way that the sun becomes distributed as light, you have to feed the mind also in increments. That's why you have certain grades: pre-K, kindergarten, first grade through sixth grade, IS, intermediate school or junior high school, and then high school, and then maybe college and university. They're feeding you information, but they're doing it incrementally so that your mind can digest these higher concepts in the same way that your body is fed large chunks of food, but you use your teeth in order to dissect those large pieces of food so that you can actually whittle them down into more smaller and manageable pieces that can fit comfortably down the throat without being regurgitated. And now, the sun is symbolic of the conscious, rational mind. Most people don't know it, but the animal that they call the rat is related to the word rational. Ration, which means to give out in pieces. Army rations, you remember that, right? To give it out in pieces. Don't give them the whole thing. They won't know what to do with the whole thing. Ration it out for them. That's what you do to your family every time you feed them dinner. You don't let them just go for broke. Thanksgiving, no, the mother, the grandma, she's there cutting up the turkey because she knows these turkeys sitting around the table will take half the turkey before anybody else gets any. So she has to ration it out. See? So the rat is named after the rational mind, because the rational mind does exactly the same thing. It rations out information. It bites into it like a rat. See? They call that gnawing. I got to show you this. This is wonderful. They call that action of the rat gnawing. K-N-A-W, gnaw. But look at what they call the information that goes into your house. They call that knowing. You see the relationship between these two words, gnawing and knowing, because the linguist, the master linguist of this world, they know that these words are related, and they teach their children and their grandchildren. Listen, if you want to know stuff, you have to be able to gnaw on stuff. And to gnaw doesn't mean that you're gulping all of it in one fell swoop. It means that you're taking it in increments into your mind. Study this part of it first, just like you learned your ABCs. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's it. Stop. Tomorrow we'll learn from G on. See? Increments. And it's interesting that if you look at the rat, I've shown you this in previous classes, you look at the rat as it is gnawing on a piece of cheese or whatever. Usually those two big teeth in the front like a rabbit has, right? And he's holding it in his paws, and he's leaning back on his hind parts. And if you take that shape, that contour, and compare it with the sideways contour of the human brain itself, it's almost a perfect fit. Yeah, from the frontal lobe all of the way back to where the lower brain stem is, which would represent the rat's tail in this case, the lower brain stem. It's almost a perfect composite of the human brain. The rat, we're talking about the rational mind. And see, who's putting all of these signatures, all of these instructing signs in the human being, except for the one who created the human being, the source creator, who tells us in the Quran that Allah has put instructing signs in the heavens and the skies. He's put instructing signs beneath our feet in the earth, and he has put similar signs in us. So says the Quran. But Allah goes on to say that most people go on heedless, pay no mind whatsoever to these wonderful instructions. That's where your school is. It's up there, it's down there, and it's in you. The ancient Egyptians said As above, so below, as without, so within. Same message, but the Quran makes it even clearer by telling you that these things come in the form of what is called ayat in the Quran. Ayat, that's the plural for ayah. And ayah is just a combination of two consonants, two letters. That's the alif and the ya. Now, it just so happens to be that in the Arabic language system, alif is the first letter, ya is the last letter. So what is that saying? That your instructions are in everything from what we would say in English, we say from A to Z. That means it covers everything. Well, in ayah covers everything. What's in the skies, what's in the earth, what's in you, what's left. What else are we talking about? That's it. What's out there, what's in you, what's in the earth. Where else are we going to look? That's where all of this, the instructions that your source creator wants you to be informed through. That's where he has placed them. Gems waiting for you to discover. Let's continue. So the sun is symbolic of the conscious, rational mind. The moon is symbolic of the subconscious, emotional mind. Oh, we're making progress here today. Man, if you go back to your college or even your high school and you start telling your psychology teacher or professor what I'm telling you today, they'll pull up a chair and tell you to teach, if they have any sense whatsoever. They'll say, take this piece of chalk, man, and wait till the class leaves. I don't want to be embarrassed, but teach me tonight. Would be the message of the smart professor. If he heard you coming with this level of wisdom, man, oh man, he'd either be so jealous or she'd be so jealous that they wouldn't want you to speak for fear of shaming what it is they've been teaching. But if he's honest and sincere, if she's honest and sincere, they'll say, listen, I need for you. They'll do what instructor Benjamin Bilal did today at the beginning of this class. Listen out for people who got something to say and not fear that they're going to sound smarter than him. I want them to shine. They are our stars. If you understood how this thing goes, you wouldn't be that kind of jealous or envious of somebody else because they know something you might not know or know better than you. If you know better than me, bring it. Is what instructor Benjamin Bilal says. I hand it over to you right away. Give you 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, take 15. That's how we roll here. And I want you to develop that habit. It's a great habit for developing the purity that's necessary for your social life. Now, we talked about the sun, the conscious, rational mind. We talked about the moon, the subconscious, emotional mind, and I'll give you details on that in just a moment as we scroll down the page. The stars are symbolic of the unconscious mind, the unconscious mind. Now, remember, I've been teaching you on these things for quite a while now in the form of the triune brain that was postulated by a neurologist named Paul MacLean, MC, capital C-L-E-A-N, Paul, first name, look it up. 1967, I believe, he brought that theory about in science. And he said that the brain is basically a three-part entity, beginning with the lower brain, which controls your instincts. That's what we're calling the unconscious mind that resides within your instinctive mind. The instincts that tell you automatically what to do, attached to your autonomic nervous system. It doesn't ask your mind questions about what's right or what's wrong, what's good or what's bad. It doesn't care anything about what's called morality or ethics. It cares about survival. That's it. Just how do I continue to survive long enough for them to develop those higher ideals, emotions and memory and reasoning and morals and all of that. They won't be around here to experience what all of that heavenly glory is if I don't keep them alive. So the unconscious mind and the instincts are designed by Allah to keep you here. They are commanders, amirs in the brain. And in this depiction of these heavenly lights, the stars are symbolic of that process. The stars that twinkle, that's what your instincts do. They just twinkle. See, they just twinkle in the dark. They tell you when to swallow. They tell you when to blink. They tell your hair when to grow and how long. They are hidden lights that are strewn all throughout the heaven of your psychology, in your body. The heaven of your body is what we're talking about. Your DNA, your RNA, all of these things operating unbeknownst to you. That's what we're talking about. So the stars, again, are symbolic of your unconscious mind. Now, in the King James translation of the English Bible, all of you are familiar with this who have been to Bible school or to church on a regular basis or have read the Bible for yourselves. This is wonderful information if you understand what it is actually teaching you. It says, and God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. So beautiful. And people say, yeah, that's the making of the sun, the moon, and the stars. I say beyond that, that's the making of the rational mind, the lesser mind, the emotional mind, and the instinctive drives, the stars. How beautiful is that? That you can go beyond the physical, the literal message, and be blessed to climb that higher ladder up into higher understanding of what's going on inside of you, not just externally outside of you. Isn't that wonderful? That you don't have to be what the giraffe is. You don't have to be what the buffalo and the deer and the rabbit and the tsetse fly and the mosquito and the bug and all of the worm and all of that and the porcupine. You don't have to live on that level of existence where you're just experiencing the world sensationally, literally, just physically. That's your whole life, figuring out the physical triggers and the physical prompts and all of that. And that's your whole life. But then your life is no greater than the deer's life. It's no greater than the average animal's life, the average insect, because we're choosing now to live on a level where we don't want to know or understand anything above the physical presentation or representation of that thing. The human mind was created for much more glorious, much higher facility than that. The human mind was created to facilitate an abstract world of events. You were not born to be simply living on the level of literal verities or realities. You're born to experience the higher levels of abstract denotations of things. Abstract. How do we know that? Because even our human language has developed in a way where every other sentence that we use, even when we're talking to ourselves, contains abstract concepts, not literal ones. Like I said in a class a couple of weeks ago, if I tell my friend, hey man, we're finished with the work that we had to do, let's just go on outside and shoot the breeze. You don't go grab your gat. If I tell my son, I don't think you're shouldering enough of your responsibility, I don't expect him to go into his room and pick something up and put it on his shoulders and come out and say, yes, I am. I am now. If I wasn't before, Dad, I got this. I'm shouldering my responsibility. We know those are not literal sayings. And I'm telling you once again, if you listen to yourself, record yourself just talking, or read a book and see how often it is you're going to come across statements that are actually abstract in their nature and not concrete. They're not speaking to concrete things. If you say, man, Johnny spilled the beans the other night, you're not talking about Goya or pinto or black beans or navy beans or vegetarian beans. You're talking about information that he should not have let loose. They say loose lips sink ships. You think that's literal? And what does that mean by loose lips? That means that the person who sank the ship has flubbery, rubbery lips before he does it, because he's speaking with flubbery, rubbery lips. Some ocean liner went belly up. No, because it's not. That's not literal. Be knucklehead. They'd have to lock you up for you to try to convince somebody that you believe that that's literal and not figurative. Figurative means you have to figure it out with your imagination. See? So keep that in mind. The Bible, along with major mythologies, along with major nursery rhymes and riddles that you've learned. All of that is figurative language. The Quran especially is mostly figurative language. The opening chapter of the Quran is called Al-Fatiha, and they translate that as the opening. The opening of what? You think that's something literal? The opening of what? Your mouth, your eyes. What is Fatiha? What is Fatih? What is Fataha? The opening of what? He opened something. Well, the opening of what? It's the opening up of your human intellect. But if you have no clue what abstract knowledge has to offer you, then you are finished before you begin. Let's continue. This is good food we're serving you tonight. Now, here is a model picture of the human mind. Look at this very carefully. There are 3 layers that I explained to you as the triune brain. I'm not going to go into all of the details of this. When you get the video, you can stop it and take notes. I'm going to read only what I believe to be most important for tonight's delivery. So here's the conscious mind on top. And it says that the conscious mind can only process 5 to 7 bits of information at a time. So the conscious mind was called the neocortex, the new cortex. That has been activated comparatively recently in history. You had one, but it wasn't activated. That conscious mind is limited in terms of the amount of information it can take in at one time. Remember what I told you about the rational mind, the gnawing? This is the part of the mind that gnaws on information because it can only take in but so much at a time. And then it goes on to tell you what other things that part of the brain does. Rational and reasoning controls thinking and the intellectual components of the mind. Psychotherapy uses this part of the mind. And I didn't even see this before, but it says it has limited space. Just exactly what we said. Then you move to the midbrain, called the limbic system, or also the mammalian brain, the middle brain. And that's where your subconscious mind is. And that's where the majority of your mind's activities take place, not on the thinner conscious level. When you make a conscious decision to do something, the majority of your mind's time and space is spent in this environment, the subconscious mind. Let's see some of what it does. It says this is like the hard drive of your mind. Behaviors and habits reside here. However, this part of your mind is programmed. This is how you behave. This is why you behave the way you behave. Think about what's being said here. That's in the subconscious mind. When Allah says in the Quran, and anywhere he says in the Quran that he has created something, khalaqal insana min alaq, created the human being. That word khalaqa, he created. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, khalaqal insana min alaq. He created the human being from an alaq, whatever that is. Oh, we're going to have a good time tonight. We translate that word khalaqa as he created a thing, but it actually means that he programmed a thing. It means that Allah programmed. This is where the human programming takes place. Whenever he says khalaq, you see that kha, you hear how it's in the back of the throat? Because the programming is in the back of your mind. It's in your subconscious mind. And whenever you see the L and the Q operating together in the Quran, as it does in the last part of this word, khalaq, L-A-Q, kha, K-H-A-L-A-Q, laq, that always refers to a level of communication or language. Laq, khalaq, talaq, falaq. We talked about that word earlier. Falaq. That laq is always referred to a level of language that is taking place inside of you. Have you heard this before? If not, you need to stick and stay with instructor Benjamin Bilal and the Nunetics family called the University Online Learning Course. You need to stick and stay. You need to find out how to join, because this ship is like Gilligan's Island. You remember the ship was set to sail. But we're not going to get lost on some strange island like they did. So this subconscious mind is where the programming takes place. Again, feelings and emotions come from here, from the subconscious mind. easily overrides the conscious mind and the will when emotions are high. So if somebody can stimulate you emotionally and get you to be all caught up in your feelings, it means that whatever good sense you had operating in the conscious part of the mind becomes overridden. Yeah. You be done forgot the sense that you were trying to establish for your life because something that was attracting you emotionally, subliminally is what they call it in psychology. It pulled on you so furiously that you forgot what common sense was supposed to be. Give you a quick, for instance, wear this mask or else you're going to die. Boy, if that doesn't appeal to the human being's emotional nature, you tell me what does. Wear this. Now, no proof that the mask even works. In fact, in the CDC's paperwork, I think I showed it to you once before when this whole stuff got started about 2 or 3 years ago. I showed you where in the CDC paperwork, they stated that we know that these masks are ineffective against the coronavirus. They said the coronavirus is it's so small that it can fit through each one of those holes in the mask thousands of times, through each hole. The virus is so small. It's minuscule, it's molecular. It can fit through those holes thousands of times through each hole. They said, we know the mask is ineffective. This is not us talking. This is not Conspiracy Central talking. This is the CDC and whatever that organization Fauci was working for. That's their paperwork. They probably scrubbed it from the internet by now. I'm going to try to find it. But they said, we know it. They said that, in fact, these are Fauci's words. Now, he said that the only reason that we recommend the mask is because we believe that the people feel more secure wearing them, not because it actually does anything to stave off the coronavirus. That's what we're talking about. People appealing to you subliminally, appealing to your subconscious mind so that your feelings, your emotions are so inundated with fear on the most part that they override what should have been your common sense. So instead of you protecting your life by wearing this mask on a daily basis in the public, and now they're encouraging you to wear it in your home, and there's nobody there but you. You see people riding around in their cars with their windows up, just them in the car wearing the mask. And then they'll take a 2-minute break to smoke a cigarette over the mask and then go back to wearing the mask. What fools have you made yourselves into? And I'm not going to say the system made you a fool. I'm saying that your common sense was knocking on the door saying, anybody home? Does this really make sense to you? And you just overrode it with your corroded emotions. And the Bible and the Quran are speaking to this, but it's speaking to it in language that you have to understand on a much higher level than what you're used to thinking on. Yeah. It's not hidden information. It's abstract information. You have to compare it as the Quran does. It's called the mithal in the Quran. The likeness of this is as of that. The Quran is doing it all the way through its pages. So the subconscious mind, it's your hard drive. It's where permanent memories are stored in the subconscious mind, not the conscious mind. Conscious mind forgets stuff. It's in the subconscious mind that your memories are stored. Every experience since conception is stored here. You hear that? Not every experience since birth. Listen to what these highfalutin scientists are telling you in their writings. Every experience since conception, meaning since the sperm hit the ovum, that's when memories started being stored in you. Powerful. But that's impossible. How is that? That's why you're supposed to study. Ask Sheikh, Google that question. See, let us know what comes back as an answer. How in the world can memory have been formed at conception? See, this is what other people and their children and grandchildren, these are the thoughts and conversations that they're having with each other while we're out talking about shaking the boogie woogie, doing the double bump, doing the slide and the freaky deaky and all. While we're busy entertaining that foolishness, they're busy investigating science that takes them into tomorrow and into the unforeseen future. It's not because they're a different complexion or a different race than you, it's because their brains are acclimated for success like yours has been deactivated away from. You just have to reactivate your brain for success. And you'll actually be more successful than the people in the world who presently are successful. It's like the experiment. If you hold a person's arms down, put pressure against their arms rising, and they keep trying to rise, and you keep pushing down on their muscles, you know what happens when you let that arm go? The arm will actually float upwards on its own. There's been so much pressure put on the majority of us who have been on the bottom of society for so long. There's been so much pressure, social pressure, especially emotional trauma on many of us, that if we would just get free of the pressure, we would float up automatically to the top without much effort. You'll surprise yourself at how much progress you make if you just would release yourself from that artificial pressure that artificial minds and an artificial conspiracy has placed on you. That's what we're here to teach you during this course in Nunetics. This is not just learning letters. This is learning letters that become ladders so that you can climb out of your situation into success. So the subconscious mind, this is where hypnosis and hypnotherapy takes place. When they hypnotize you, they go into your subconscious reservoirs of memory and mind and emotions, and they begin to manipulate that. So during hypnotherapy, they can send you back to when you were in the womb of your mother and ask you to explain what you're experiencing. You could literally curl up right there in the psychiatrist's chair and start acting like a baby in the womb. This human structure is deep. Don't underestimate your source creator, meaning your source programmer. Don't underestimate the programming. You see alpha or theta brain waves. You should study the 5 basic brain waves that I've been giving you. And in the subconscious mind, there's no such thing as limited space. Unlimited space. How beautiful that is. Unlimited space. Do you know what that means? That means that you should be able to draw a straight line, so to speak, between your subconscious mind and the cosmos, because the cosmos also represents unlimited space. Earth has limited space. The cosmos has, as far as we know, unlimited space. So there must be something in the subconscious mind of human beings that is directly related to the cosmos. And if you learn how to tap into the subconscious mind and learn how to yourself become the master of your subconscious mind, that means also that you'll be learning how to become the master of asking the cosmos for what it is you need. You can requisition the cosmos itself, and the cosmos becomes your private angel force. And everything I'm telling you is in the Quran. Allah told the angels, bow down to Adam. That's one of the men we'll be talking about in this course on the meaning of man in the Bible and the Quran. Adam, supposed to be the first man, and Allah instructed all of his angels to bow down in the direction of Adam. Beautiful when you understand it. So you got to study these things if you expect to come out with understanding. This is not entertainment. What I'm giving you is inner attainment. Lastly, we have the unconscious mind, where there is no conscious awareness or control. No conscious awareness or control. It's where the immune system functions from, on the most part, from the unconscious mind. When you eat a morsel of food and it goes into your system and into the gut, in the gut is where 85%, I believe, of the immune system lives. You got other parts of the body that have immune activation points and so forth, but the majority of your immune system lives in the gut, the G-U-T, the gut. And you know that in linguistics, the letters T and the letter D are interchangeable as what are called dentals. You need your teeth in order to pronounce them. T, t, d, d, T, and D. So the word gut is also the word good and God. So the God of your body is your gut. So a lot of times when you're reading about God in scripture, you think you're reading about the source creator. You're actually reading about your own appetites. In the Old Testament, it talks about how God slew 500,000 Egyptians with no remorse, men, women, and children. That's in the New Testament. Boy, you talking about violence. That's why I don't like the Quran. The Quran is so violent. Have you read your Bible lately? God slew 500,000 Egyptians, men, women, children, and I forgot this part, and life in the womb. So God just wiped them out, slew them, just got rid of them. And you think that's talking about instances in the history of a particular warlike people, the ancient Egyptians against the Hebrews, God's children. You have no idea that this is not speaking literally. It's speaking metaphorically. It's speaking abstractly about things that are happening in you. You got a force of commanders and soldiers in you, even if you're just talking about your white blood cells. Have you ever studied your white blood cells and what they do? When there's an invasion of some foreign substance in your system, do you know what your white blood cells go to do? Do you know what happens if you cut your arm? Just a little cut. Do you know what the white blood cells begin to immediately do as an army of protection in your system? Go Google that. That's your homework. I don't do your homework for you. I just point you in the way of the information you need to go get. Your body is slaying thousands of things every day, thousands of germs that don't belong there. Your body's doing that. You got cancer cells, and everybody has cancer cells in their body. How come everybody don't have cancer? Because you have something that the source creator put into your system that is slaying those enemies of your body. And you think the scripture's talking about enemies on the literal battlefield. That's the least thing that scriptures are talking about. People always criticizing the Quran. It says, slay them where you find them. It says, slay them by the necks. You don't understand what the Quran is speaking. It's not speaking literally about physical slaying and physical warfare. It's speaking about what the systems of knowledge that the Creator has placed within your very body do. They slay those enemies wherever they find them. That's their job. And if you understood what striking their necks means, then you'll understand how certain germs and protoplasm and other things that become enemies in your system, how your system is designed by the source creator to take those things out. Even your sperm, mister, has a neck. You ever look at sperm? You see how it's shaped? It's like a worm, like a snake almost. Even your sperm has a neck. If you were to slice the neck of that sperm, do you think that sperm could germinate that ovum? Did you know that these things happen in your system? How come only one sperm makes it, and all those millions that were shot out of the penis, they die on the football field? None of them make the touchdown, just that one. What happens to all those other ones? This is your homework. This is how instructor Benjamin Bilal studies. I study based on inspiration, what Allah inspires me to go looking for, not what I learned in the classroom. The classroom that I study in is the universe. You make that your classroom, you'll be just as bright a bulb in the pack as I am, or better. So the unconscious mind is controlling what's called the autonomic nervous system. You have two basic nervous systems. One is the central nervous system that runs up and down your spinal column, up and down your back. That's your first nervous system, the central nervous system. But your secondary nervous system is called the autonomic because it operates automatically. You don't have to command it from the brain, from the central lookout tower. You don't have to say to it, I need help. As soon as you eat the wrong thing, that autonomic nervous system goes to work to remedy that thing that you did wrong without your conscious perception of the remedy taking place. So it controls functions like breathing, heartbeat, digestion. You don't need your rational mind for that. You don't need your emotional mind for that. Your autonomic mind, your unconscious mind goes to work in order to make sure that that situation becomes tenable in the body. And that's being controlled by what's called the delta brain waves. Every single one of these 5 brain waves is given to us allegorically in the Quran. There are 5 brain waves spoken of in modern science. And there are 5 things that are spoken of in the Quran that are regulating your life in the same way that these literal brain waves are regulating your thinking. There's a very famous hadith that says, Buni al-Islam ala khams, that al-Islam is built upon 5. It's structured upon 5. Buni means structured. Ala khams. Ala means on top of 5. And ala also means that the thing that is on top of something is responsible for what's beneath it. Wonderful connections in the logic. And then it goes on to talk about the 5 so-called pillars of Islam. And you think it's talking about literal 5 pillars that are nowhere mentioned, even in the Quran. They don't mention anything about any 5 pillars. What the Muslim world has done, intentionally or unintentionally, is given us 5 pillows to sleep on. Some of them hope that we will never wake up because they have us chasing useless, purposeless rituals. The Quran never, ever gives us rituals to follow. You'll see this book that's coming out in about another week, The True Meaning of the Salat, Volume 2. Boy, if you didn't get Volume 1, you better hurry up because I'm not going to be printing any more of those. You get this Volume 2, you're going to be good to go, even without a Volume 1. And I'm going to show you the difference between a ritual and a routine. The Quran is full of routines for us to follow. But the Quran nowhere gives us anything to follow that's called a ritual. And I'm going to explain to you what the difference is. In that book, I'll give you this teaser for now. A ritual is a purposeless action or activity. It means that once you're finished doing it, it really served no real purpose that we could call something that advanced anything, that made something better. The people you have a problem with in your masjid today are more than likely the same people that you had a problem with 10 years ago when you joined the masjid. The way that guy speaks to you, the way that man looked at you. He undressed you with his eye. He did that 10 years ago when you walked through the doors of the masjid, and he makes salat every time it's called. He's right there. He might be leading it. So that ritual has done nothing to increase the purity in that man's heart or the intelligence in that man's brain. It's done nothing. It's been nothing but physical 5 minutes worth of exercise per ritual prayer. That's a ritual. Now, what's the difference between a ritual and a routine? A routine is designed to be a repetitive action that at the end of the action, there is some noticeable, discernible benefit. When you brush your teeth, wash your face, or take a shower in the morning or whatever, and put on clean clothes instead of the dirty clothes you took off, the sweat stains and all that. You don't put that back on. You say, I'm going to go to work today, or I'm going to go out to school today, and I'm going to have fresh clothes on. But when they pass me, they're going to smell the laundry detergent I used yesterday. You understand? That feels good to you. When somebody say, oh man, what is that you wash your clothes in, girl? But that's a good smell, right? I want to get that. Was that Downy? See, yeah. But you did that as a routine because at the end of that routine, there's a discernible, a noticeable benefit. When you brush your teeth, there's a noticeable benefit. You won't be up in people's face and you didn't brush your teeth in 3 days. So there's nothing in the fitrah that makes you brush your teeth. There's something in your intellect that advises you to brush your teeth. And it's a routine. Taking a shower, you don't have to do that. There's nothing in the fitrah that says you must take a shower. But your common sense says that after I take my shower and I come out, man, if nobody else smells me as fresh as I am, I smell it and I feel good just smelling myself, getting out the shower, putting on whatever I put on, lotion, deodorant, whatever, you know. Man, I'm good. When I go to bed, and I go to bed with some clean sheets and pillowcases too. Oh, in heaven. You know what that's a routine. You wash your clothes routinely. I hope y'all are hearing me, because I ain't gonna be repeating this over and over again every week. But you don't wash your clothes as a ritual. There are people who do blood sacrifices as rituals that have no discernible benefit for anybody. And Allah says that your blood doesn't reach God. Don't sacrifice animals for Allah's sake. Your blood doesn't reach. That's a ritual they had, and it goes nowhere. It means nothing in the galactic scope of things. But a routine is supposed to lead to a discernible outcome that's beneficial. Not that takes you backwards, but that actually advances you forward. When you put on clean clothes, when you brush your teeth, when you wash your face, when you take your shower, when you say nice things routinely to people. You don't have to do that. You don't have to compliment people, but when you do, oh, how good you feel. How wonderful this is. So just exchange the word ritual. When people ask you, does Islam have rituals? Say, no, it doesn't have any rituals, but it does have routines, things that Allah asks us to do routinely. Like Salat, and I'll be discussing that in the new book, so I'm not going to go into the details of that today. But he also talks about zakat, what most people call charity, and you don't have to do that. There's nothing in the Quran that says you get punished for not giving zakat, but you do it as a routine, and you understand the practical benefit at the end of doing that for you and other people, for your own soul, first of all, the purification of your soul, but for the people that you're giving to, the homeless family now on the corner of whatever avenue that has dirty clothes and empty belly. See? So you do that routinely, other people benefit. So look at the leverage that Allah has given the human being who has this insight. I don't have to, look at Allah put all these things that I have to breathe. I have to drink water and eat food. Those are not rituals and routines. I don't eat routinely because it's a routine. I eat because it's a survival mechanism for me. I have to eat. I have to breathe. But I don't have to be nice to people. See the leverage Allah has given the human being? That we cannot do things that our nature is not forcing us to do. Your nature, your moral nature is calling you to do those things. Hey, it would be nice if you did this, or if you helped that lady across the street. And you can or you don't have to. If you don't, then there's no harm, no foul. But Allah will reward you that much more over if you do. How sweet this is. Sam and Dave said, sweeter than the icing on the birth cake. Soul Sister, brown sugar. Yeah. This is sweeter than that. Jackie Gleason said, how sweet it is. This is sweeter than that. What I'm giving you right now is sweet, 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 but it won't cause sugar diabetes. Yeah, Allah says in the paradise, there's wine that you will be given that will not intoxicate. So yeah, so this is sugar. This is sweetness that I'm sharing with you right now that will not cause diabetes. It will not cause an abnormality in your system. It's only going to contribute to the upkeep and the upliftment of your system. So understand that. So you have your mind, your brain operating on these three respective levels. The conscious mind, called neocortex, as a brain part. The subconscious mind, called limbic system, as a brain part. And the unconscious mind, called the R complex, or the reptilian brain, as a part. Let's move forward. Now, the English word man, M-A-N, as an acronym, meaning how every letter actually stands for something that they are not telling you about. Many people know this who are in the higher echelons of secret societies. They understand what I'm about to share with you right now, that the word man is an acronym. That means the M stands for something, the A stands for something, and the N stands for something. Now, when you understand what these things mean, you're going to say, wow, look at what they've been hiding from Joe Public and Jane Public. M-A-N as an acronym. The M is symbolic of the female. Listen to the order that they put this in. The M, again, symbolic of the female. And don't you know that they give it to you in the very glyph that they use in the English language? Let me show this to you for real, for real. You see that letter M? You don't even have to stretch your imagination for this one. Just follow me. That is a depiction of the female vagina in the middle of her two legs. That's where they got the letter M. The letter M is a feminine letter in all alphabets that I have investigated, including the Arabic meme letter, meme. That's one leg there. That's the private parts of the female there. And that's the other leg on this side. When she lays down to conceive, they simply draw it that way. Now her legs are in the air and her female parts are in the middle waiting to receive the male contribution. So the M and the W and the English letter V, which is the vagina by itself. That's why all of these words in English that you're using the letter V to begin, they have to do with femininity. Virgin, valley, you get it? The valley, going into, not up to, into the valley. You're going up into the mountain, which begins with an M, but in the mountain, there's a cavern, there's a cave, there's an opening, you get it? And you enter into the opening. So the letters M, W, and V are feminine letters in the English language and in every language that employs those sounds. Listen to the word for skies in Arabic, samawat. Got the M sound and the W sound, samawat. That lets you know the skies are feminine. And then I'll put the little feminine T on the end. Samawat, T, ta marbuta, feminine T. He letting you know the skies are feminine. The earth is feminine, but not all of the time. The skies are feminine all of the time. That's why everything feminine, as I've told you, is feminine because it can be influenced by an outside agent. Now, if you don't believe the skies can be influenced by an outside agent, you didn't just read about the Maui experiment and how they manipulated the weather in the sky to effectuate that kind of damage on Earth, resulting in the loss of thousands of people's lives. Not going to get into political commentary on that, but I call them like I see them. No way in the world nature did that. Only the cruel and devious-minded people in positions of power and leadership can effectuate something like that and laugh it off. And you can go on thinking that Oprah is the good guy in the story if you want. I'm telling you, all of them people over there, those Hollywood types and those governmental leaders and those rich folk, Jeff Bezos and all of them over there, that could have easily come together and donated 10 million each and not even felt a pinch in their pockets and just wrote it off during tax season. Just a tax write-off. They could give away $10 million to rebuild Maui. How come they haven't done it? Why are they asking you and me for money? You know, poor people can barely afford to pay their damn rent. They're going to come and asking you. The Rock, that should tell you something. He's hard as stone. That's talking to their hearts. All right. So the female is the M in this letter depiction. The male is the A. You've heard of alpha male, right? The male is the A. Yeah, he's the one with the two legs on the side and something right in between. The male, he's A. Because A in all alphabets represents basically the first letter of the alphabet, which makes that letter the leader of the alphabet. So he's the leader. She's the conceiver. He's the leader. Pay attention. Keep your phones muted, please. So when the female begins to relate to the male, the chances of them producing offspring are very, very high. And the offspring is under the letter N. N. You know, N in Arabic is nun, and you know, nun, one of its meanings is seed. So the child is the seed product of the combination of the female when she copulates with the male and produces offspring. We call that offspring the seed of that male and female. Can't be male and male. Sorry. They won't produce a seed. Can't be female and female. Sorry. Won't produce a seed. Only the female and the male, when they copulate or copulate, whatever the pronunciation is, can they produce a seed product that we call the child, as you can see in this very beautiful picture below. The female, M, gets with the male, A, and produces the offspring, N. M, A, N is what this picture is depicting. Let's continue. And you can see here on the upper right, the sun, which is illuminating the human mind. And the human mind then reflects on that sunlight, meaning what it's viewing in the outside environment. And it begins to reflect on that information. And that's when the dawn, the felak, will occur for that mind, for that individual. That's why the entire Surah Al-Falaq is dealing with deep darkness, because you have to put the pieces in place to be able to elevate or evolve yourself out of that darkness. Read that surah again. I seek refuge with Allah. The Rabb, the one who is evolving us out of Al-Falaq. Rabbil Falaq, the one who is evolving us, bringing us into the dawn of newfound intelligence. This is great. Now, the word man is speaking about the entire human population, both male and female. Here's where you need to put the brakes on academia and tell them, back up some. I have my own definitions for what humans are now. I don't need you to tell me what a man is anymore. I don't need you to tell me what a woman or a female is anymore. I don't need you to explain to me what a girl or a boy is. I have the etymological facts in front of me because of this class I've been taking and this study I've engaged to be able to now come here and tell you what it means and back it up. You can't back up what you're saying about what a man is. You told me man meant muscle. So you say it's a man's world, James Brown. And people are thinking he's talking about a male, the muscle man, the guy, the father, the man's world, but it ain't nothing, without a woman or a girl. Okay, well, we need you to stick around and we need you for humanity to be able to reproduce. But other than that, it's a man's world, girl. That ain't what it's talking about. The real, true, down-home meaning of the word man is mind. We told you that at the top of this class. Mind. Does the female not have a mind? Yes. Well, then she's a man also. That's why it's in her title, woman. Did you not see that? It's right there in front of you, W-O-M-A-N, screaming at you, but you refuse to call her a man because it sounds funny, because you've been duped into believing that M-A-N is just the male portion of humanity. Don't you see the word man in humanity? You can't see it in that either. You can't see it in mankind. That means males and females, but your brain is turned into mush under this crazy, crazy backward system of education. So they're able to manipulate you into sexism and chauvinism easily because you're not thinking. All you got to do is think a little bit and you'd be able to, wait a minute. How can man mean male when this word man is in woman, it's in human, it's in humanity, it's in mankind? And I know that doesn't just mean the males. That's how you should be thinking. That's how you should teach your children to think if you haven't been thinking that way. Now you got a brand new start. Teach your children, your grandchildren. You see that word M-A-N? No, the M is for the woman, the A is for the man, and the N is for you, little guy. And explain this easy terminology to your future generations. They will love you for it. And they won't love you to death. They're going to love you to life because you help bring them to life intellectually and sensitivity wise. Living now. They're living for another day to go visit grandpa. Oh, man. So look, Look at the consonantal connections. Now, all you got to do is follow the bouncing ball of consonantal connections, and you will make yourself wise. The word male is related to the word mull, M-U-L-L. And a male is simply a masculine muller, meaning one who mulls. So let's look at what mull means as a verb. Ponder, to turn over in one's mind. Isn't that what we said the moon does? Most people ponder when the moon comes out. They're not busy trying to conquer territories at night. They're busy trying to figure out what's going on in their own individual soul when the moon comes out. So they are mulling. Then look at this. It says, when you mull something, you're grinding something into powder. Isn't that what you do at the mill? You see these consonantal connections? M-I-L-L, M-U-L-L. And they say that to mull is to grind. Grind what into powder? Ideas. Just like the physical mill grounds huge chunks of rocks and stuff like that, and then it grinds it down into fine powder. That's what the human intellect does when it learns to mull over things, to ponder things, to revisit ideas over and over again, like we spoke about earlier, to remember, to investigate, to ponder. See how the word pond is in ponder? You know what a pond is. Many people go by the pond in order to do what? To meditate, to think about things, to cogitate, to think things through, to think about things over and over again. Some people go there, the yogis go there, and they meditate by the pond because that's calm water compared to the oceans and rivers that are always roaring and running and ripping, right? So they go by the pond, the contained body of water, to ponder, to grind to powder. It's talking about ideas, not physical stuff. Now, when you learn to ponder, in the same way that when you feed substances into the mill and it comes out ground into powder, and powder is soft. You don't pick up powder to kill anybody with. You might pick up a rock, the thing that you turned into powder. You might pick up that. You don't take gunpowder and throw it at your opposing army. Right? Because it's been ground into finer, softer substances. So what does that say? It's saying that when a true human being learns to ponder, that all of those things that could have been injurious to other people, that you would have normally used as weapons against somebody else whose beliefs were not your beliefs, whose customs and behaviors were not your customs and behaviors particularly, and you learn to mull over those ideas and say, well, how can they really be that much different than me? They just have a different language expression. They just wear different colors for clothing, but they're covering themselves pretty decently. They're not screaming at me. They're smiling at me. That's a universal language, to smile. Everybody knows what that means, no matter what language they speak. They know what a smile means. It's universal. Even babies without teeth can smile, and you know what it means. Oh, cute, that little baby, right? Crying, that's a universal expression of emotion. So people will start mulling over these connections in the logic. And they'll say, well, when I count up on the scale how many things we have in common and weigh it against how many things we don't have in common, the things we have in common always outweigh those things that we have in common. You got 5 fingers and 5 toes too? Really? I mean, look, in nature, you can just count the commonalities between people. You can count enough commonalities between humans and animals to know to treat the animals better than you do. Your dog, he got paws and feet and a nose and eyes. I mean, you just start comparing the things you do have with what a dog or a horse or a chimpanzee or whoever has. And you'll say, well, we have to be relatives on some level. So let me just, I don't think they're a greater gift to planet Earth than the human. Yes, how some people think, right? But, let me treat them. Let me stop kicking the dog every time I see him in the road, that kind of thing. And all you got to do is look at what things have in common to say there must be some relationship, because everything that is related has commonality. And similar value. Even if that dog is not valuable in your human world, understand that that dog is valuable in the dog world. Allah says he had created every creature and given it an ummah context to live in, a community context to live in. Allah says that about every creature, the bumblebee, the lice that crawl out of your garbage can when it's been in there too long, unemptied. They live in communities like yours, Allah says. He didn't say something like, he said like yours. What does that mean? That means that that lice has a daddy and a mommy and children and uncle and cousin Pookie. The lice has all of those characters also. So what? Treat them better than you treat them. Get them out of your backyard. But don't just indiscriminately go stepping on an anthill. What's wrong with you and your children? Don't do that. That's what that means. They make community decisions. Ants do. Ants save each other's lives because they know how to listen to commands coming from the ones in charge. How come we can't do that? All of us want to be big head honcho chief over all things. Can't make a decision to hang a pair of curtains on the window. You got to override everything your wife says because you want to be the one to make that decision, mister. Why? She can't decide to have pink curtains if I don't like pink. It's mesputo. I don't like no. Well, you don't have to live in the house like she does for the amount of time that she lives in that house and has to invite the people over. She wants it to have that feminine feel. Don't you know that a house itself is feminine? House is feminine. Anyway, let's keep moving. So that's mulling. And in our deen, within the Quran, we have a term that I won't get deep into today. It's called the millah of Ibrahim. And they just translate it as religion or, something similar to that. The religion of Abraham. Millah is not religion. Millah doesn't mean what deen means. Again, we're not going to go into that tonight. That's just to whet your appetite. But just understand that if it's consonantally connected, it's going to have related meanings in terms of the letters being characteristic of something, not the definitions of something, characteristics of something. If you know what those letters mean as characteristics, you can factor those characteristics into the meaning of that word, period. Oh, yeah. Let's keep going. Look at what Allah says here. أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا. Do they not ponder the Quran? We're talking about the ability in the mind to mull, to ponder. Allah asks the question, do they not mull over the Quran is what this means. Do they not ponder the Quran with care? Had it been from other than Allah, you see that? Had it been from other than Allah, they would surely have found within it much discrepancy, contradictions, many contradictions. So that's the purpose of pondering. You're not supposed to let your teachers and your sheikhs and your instructors and your imams and your mullahs make the decisions for you in this deen. Allah charges you to ponder the Quran with consideration. Not just gliss over it, not read it once a year during Ramadan, falling asleep at the end, the second, third page in. That's not what Allah asks of you, of us. He's asking us to really give deep thought, to contemplate the Quran. For what reason? To determine whether or not it's from Allah in the first place. Because if it had not been revealed by Allah, you would immediately begin to find discrepancies. Oh, he said this over here, but look at what he says on this page, which is totally contradictory to what he said on that page. You'll be in the Quran all day long with that kind of mind. So look at the word female. We said that the word male means a masculine muller. I'm a masculine gender. I mull, I ponder, I contemplate, I think, I rethink, I reconsider. All of that is a part of yatadabbaru al-Quran, pondering on the Quran with all of those faculties that Allah has gifted me with. But he's also gifted my female counterpart with the same propensity to think, to ponder, to reason out, to tease out that which does not belong there, to separate out those things that are not consistent with the excellence of that idea. She has the same capacity. So she's a feminine muller. She's a FE, feminine male. That's all it's saying. She's a feminine muller. You get it? But Phi, the Fe, is also the chemical table signature for iron. Some of you know that if you've been in chemistry lab. Iron is given the letters Fe, and iron is magnetic. Beautiful. So it is also saying that the female is a magnetic being. Unlike the male, he's not magnetic in his gender differentiation. She is magnetic. The feminine principle is magnetic. You see M-A-G, and it's actually given to you in the M-A by itself. It means magnificent, magistrate, magnify. You see that M-A-G always means bigger than. So what is Allah saying with a wink, wink, and a, that kind? He's saying that what I created in the female is actually the greater, has the greater significance than what I created in the male. Now, some of you chauvinists are shaking your heads and saying, I was with him all the way up until that point right there, where he's talking about the female is a greater matter than the female is a greater matter in the world and in the universe and in the cosmos than the male principle. Yes, indeed. Allah gave her one ovum. He gave you millions of sperm, and all of those millions of sperm get burnt out except for one. If her one sperm got burnt out, you would have no future life. Who's the greater in that capacity? And then gave her a homemade milk machine. Where's yours, mister? When your son comes here, if she's absent, can you feed that baby from there? Now, some of them will try to convince you that you can. Those are the nuts that are walking around now trying to get men to breastfeed babies. You go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when you stray away from Allah's fitrah. That's why he said, let there be no interfering and interruption and corruption of my fitrah. Allah tells you, of my way of doing things, the way I created the things, the way I program things. Don't interfere with the programming is what Allah says in Surah 30, Ayah 30. So she's magnetic. That's why you live in a universe, meaning a yoni-verse. You live in a giant vulva. That's what this cosmos is. It's a giant baby-making machine that is constantly producing and reproducing new life forms. That's a feminine thing. Yoni. Yoni is the Sanskrit word for the female reproductive parts. I'm trying to bring equality. And those of you who know me, you know that. You know what I'm doing. You know my strategy. Trying to bring back the equilibrium. All right. So the feminine principle is magnetic, and it draws things in like the magnet. See? The magnet draws things towards it. That's what the feminine principle does. That's why she's got to be more careful about what she wears out in public than the male does, because he's not a magnet on the most part for feminine interests. She's a magnet for masculine interests. She walk down the street, if she ain't wearing what she should be wearing, she's going to draw all kinds of energies towards her, good, bad, and indifferent. She'll draw females towards her with their lesbian interests. Males walking down the street, he got short shorts on, ain't nobody looking at him except as a, yeah, I mean, if he's a real looker guy, whatever, one of those models off of GQ, you got a few females in, oh, he really got nice legs, don't it? But you let a female walk out with some nice legs in the public, Magnet City, man, I'll run into a brick wall. Man, I'll walk away with a neck brace looking at her. You know it, you've seen it, you've probably done it in your younger years. He'll break his neck. He trying to take a quick look before his wife can see him looking. Yeah, see, go, oh man. Carry a mirror in his pocket just so he don't miss it, you know. Like he fixing his hair, he looking at her. Y'all know us, right? Because she's magnetic. That's her property. That's why you got that hadith that says something like the first look is for you and the second look is for shaitan. The first look at that's your nature, you know, that's just automatic. That's the automatic nervous system saying, hey, survival. I can reproduce through that thing right there. But now that you've had a few seconds to think about it and you look back again, that's shaitan's influence on your brain. Let's keep going. So the magnet attracts, the electricity repels, it pushes things out like lightning bolts do. Yeah, it's electric. Now, what you are reading about within the pages of the Quran's Mus'haf, the suhuf of the Quran, translated as purified pages in the Quran. And just understand that the Quran, that word does not mean book, like we're reading a book that we call the Quran. That book is called the Mus'haf, suhuf, pages, purified pages. Quran is actually what you're experiencing as you listen to the tonality of Quranic words being recited or being read by you or by anybody else by recording. You're listening to the Quran. The Quran is a phonetic phenomenon. It's not a word, language, letter phenomenon. You don't read the Quran as such. You experience the Quran vocally, audibly, phonetically. Now, what I just gave you is a major step up from where the rest of the Muslim world has been training you to go. So tell these imams and that with love and respect. Say, yeah, I understand when you say the Quran, you're talking about what? You know the Quran, brother. No, I know the Mus'haf. If you're talking about that book you're holding under your arm. But if you recite it to me during the Jummah or, you know, in a circle of, you know, whatever, and you start, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, that's the Quran. Continuing. So what you're reading about within these pages, when it comes to gender, G-E-N-D-E-R, gender, are references to aspects of human nature. Listen to this carefully. This is another major step up for your intellect, if you can grasp it. And it's easy to grasp if you would just let go of the other stuff they put in there. Make room in the inn, as it says in the Bible. New baby's about to be born. Make room in the inn. Move those horses and cattle and cows and sheep and goats over. New life is about to enter the inn. That means it was feminine where Jesus was born. He was born in the inn, not in the out, in the inn. Now, when it comes to gender, all of these terms are references to aspects of human nature in terms of its form and function, how nature is formed and how nature functions. That information is given to terms that Allah is choosing for his Quran, that we are misapplying meanings to, believing that it's referring to physical gender, male, female, man, woman, daughter, son. We think it's talking to these differentiations in genders when the Quran is not talking about that at all. The Quran is speaking equally in all of its pages to both males and females, even when he's using one or the other gender to bring the message to you. If he's speaking about males, al-dhakr. If he's speaking about females, al-untha. You see them in your mind because of your academic training and your family orientation and what they taught you. You see al-dhakr as physical males. You see al-untha as physical females. But the Quran is not presenting them as such. The Quran is presenting properties that exist within your very human nature in terms of how it is formed and how it functions. Let's prove that to you. You got to be a deep thinker to grasp this, though. So pay attention. The Quran, I repeat, is speaking equally in all of its pages to both males and females. And if you don't understand this logic right here that I'm presenting to you, then you have to conclude that the Quran is a male supremacy book, because the Quran is speaking mostly to men. You'd have to say, well, Allah revealed the Quran mostly for males. He's telling you how to make a ghusl. He's talking to the men about how to make ghusl, wash your ankle, wash your feet up to the ankles. And when you are in connection and sexual connections with the women, then wash this and that. Well, then who is he talking to when he says when you are in connection and sexual connections with the women? Then he ain't talking to the women. He's talking to the men. So how can it be the Quran from Rabbil Alameen, the Rabb of all systems of knowledge, the Rabb of all the world, the Rabb of all orientations? How can he be talking to males and females equally? How can the Quran be equally the properties of males and females when he's got parts of the Quran that are just speaking to males and mostly speaking to at least 75, but more than that, about 85, maybe to 90% of the Quran is directing itself towards the masculine gender. If you look at the masculine endings on words, even when he's speaking to groups, he's speaking through the masculine gender. We say salam alaikum. Kum is a masculine ending, plural ending. But they say, well, in that case, it includes both males and females. You Tweety bird brain, you don't understand the logic yet. I'm speaking like this just to jar you, just to wake you up. I don't mean any harm. But they rationalize it. Okay, assalamu alayki is speaking to a female. Salam alayka is speaking to a singular male. Salamu alaykunna is speaking to just plural females. But salamu alaykum, I can say that to a group of all males, or I can have some females scattered in there, and it'll still be speaking to both males and females, even though it's a masculine plural ending. Isn't that something? Is that really how Allah does what he does, to speak to women through you, mister? When you are the major gender in the world that's responsible for this mess up that we're experiencing right now and in history. It wasn't the female that messed the world up like that. It was the males that messed the world up like that. Then some people will say, well, that's why Allah is speaking in the Quran to mostly males, because they messed the majority of the world up. Yeah, but all of those males were born out of a female womb. So she's got to be taught and retaught also. She's got to be respected and to feel like her Rabb, her Lord, is speaking to her equally or along with him. The women who plead. But the women who plead are not females, gender-wise. The women who plead are your emotionality. It's your emotionality that's pleading, that's being divorced. When your sensitivities are being waylaid and told that, you can't express yourself here. I don't want nothing more to do with you. Be to me like the back of my mother. That's what the mind, the rational mind that has gone astray, is saying to the emotionality. Be to me like the back of my mother. I don't want anything more to do. I don't want to intercourse with you anymore. I don't want to know how to feel about it. I just want to go ahead and do what I got to do. World is rough now. I ain't got time to be feeling all these touchy-feely feelings and all of that about nobody. I'm about me and mine now. Say, be to me like the back of my mother. How sick these people were. But Allah took their language and he upgraded that language so that it could be applied to any people on this planet equally. Because you, Mrs., whatever you want to be called, are composed of 23 male chromosomes along with your 23 female chromosomes to complete 46. We have an equal number of chromosomes, so how are we not an equal number of both masculine and feminine properties and principles? Allah is speaking to your chromosomes in the Quran. He's speaking to your DNA in the Quran. He's speaking to your nafs. We'll get into that in just a moment and conclude. He's not speaking to your gender. That's secondary, tertiary, unnecessary for him to speak to your gender. He's speaking to your insides. The Bible is doing the same. I'll show you that next week in exploring the word for man and male in the book of Genesis of the Bible. That'll be next week. Let's complete this. We're almost finished. This is juicy fruit here, and it's not growing on the average tree. So during this season, or series, I should say, We will be examining the various words used in the Quran, beginning with the words dhakr, which they translate as male, biological male. Yes, that it means that in the Arabic language amongst the Arabs, but that's not what it means in the Quran. The male, the biological male, is just a prototype for the idea, for the abstract idea that Allah is teaching. So we're going to look into that word next week. We're going to look into the word untha, which they translate as the biological female. And we're going to show you how it's not just the biological female. She's last on the list of things Allah is talking about, because you already figured that out. You had thousands of years to figure out what a female was. Thousands of years to figure out what a male was. Allah didn't put that in his last and final revelation for all time. He didn't put in there what you already knew about. He says, خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم, taught the human being that which she were before unaware, not knowing, not having ilm of, not having knowledge of. You pack the Quran, as small a book as that is, with stuff that you already knew about. He uses the Quran to upgrade your inner self. The term ar-rijal, they translate that as the men are the maintainers and providers for the women, etc. So we're going to talk about that next week. And nisa, they translate that as the biological women. We're going to show you how that's not what that's talking about at all. And it also uses the word basharun for human being, bashar or basharun. And I'm basharun mithlukum. I am a bashar like all the rest of you. So said Muhammad through the Quran. I'm a human mortal, just like all of the rest of you. We're going to investigate what that word means based on its consonantal connections. Now, the Quran was not revealed for a specific gender. The Quran was revealed for the graduation of the human soul called the nafs, N-A-F-S. We're going to get into that a little bit in a minute. The Quran was revealed, I repeat, for the graduation, the incremental graduation of the human soul. And it is addressing that soul with each and every statement being made. Let us examine this word's consonantal breakdown. The consonantal breakdown of N-A-F-S. The consonants in there are N-F-S. What does the letter N in Arabic signify? We call that letter nun. And as a part of your body, it symbolizes the nostrils, the nose, the nostrils that breathe in and out. Do that at home with your computer muted. You see that? You can go into deep meditation just doing that, right? Breathing exercises. That's the letter nun. The next letter, fa, the F sound, represents the mouth which opens and closes. The opened mouth is fa. When you say that letter, your mouth has to open. If you approach it from the opposite direction, then the mouth has to close. When you say turn that light off, see, then the mouth has to close. If you say find me my sweater, see, the F goes open, the open mouth. If you say keep that light off, then it closes. And both of those motions signify a message to the intellect, to the psyche, especially to the subconscious that we've been talking about. The subconscious then goes to work to figure out what it means to open the mouth. What does that mean psychologically? You put together so elegantly and eloquently by Allah that we bypass most of the machinery that Allah has used to program this human vessel with. The khalaq. We bypass it because we're not dwelling on it consciously. We're not studying these factors that go into the development of the excellent human being. We don't study these things. We're too busy studying soap operas and foolishness and hip hop and, shake your booty stuff and pornography and that. We're too busy looking and giving total attention to those things for us to concentrate on what is really happening inside of this human vessel that Allah created fi ahsani taqweem, in the most excellent of organizational designs. So that's noon. The nostrils that breathe in and out, they open and they close, so to speak. The mouth also opens and closes. Both of them bring air in and can put air out. The nostrils can bring air in. The nostrils can put air out. The nostrils bring in that which is conducive to the further life and survival of the body. It brings in oxygen. The blood needs that oxygen, so it brings it in. But the body, the nostrils are only going to breathe out, get rid of, extract that which is to the detriment of the body if it stays in the body too long. The carbon dioxide, that's toxic to the body. So the body breathes that out. But look at what Allah does in his magnificence. He takes that carbon dioxide and he uses it to feed the further life of the vegetation in the environment, the plants and the trees. Our toxins are their oxygen. And then they breathe out oxygen so that humans can breathe in oxygen for our. It's a reciprocal relationship between humans and plant life as Allah created it. Isn't that wonderful? You think that's an Arab God that did that? You think that's a white son of God, Jesus, that created this world like that? You're out of your cotton picking mind. That is the source creator of all. And he didn't create no one so-called religion to run everything and to rule everything on this earth. He gave you options, and he said, let there be no forcing of the options on anybody. The truth stands out clearly from error. So what you should be chasing is not Vickard beads and not prayer rugs. You should be chasing truth and making sure that that truth differs tremendously from mistakes in the road, in the path. And then pick up the truth and keep marching forward down that Sirat al-Mustaqim, that straight path, with the truth under your arm until you get to the goal line. Then the final consonant is Sin, the letter S in Nafs. And Sin represents the human intellect, which chews on information when opening and closing. So all three of these letters have something to do with opening and closing. Taking something in, letting something out. The intellect takes in information. It says, this doesn't make sense. I can't buy what that man is saying. And you let that out. You put that out of the intellect. But you take in those things. So that first part of what the instructor talked about, I can dig that. I can understand. But that other thing that he was talking about, the women being a little bit above the male and as far as their value in the world, I can't. So you breathe in some of what I say. That becomes oxygen for you. And the stuff that might be toxic in your system, you breathe that out. Big deal. The environment absorbs it. The environment absorbs everything that you breathe out. It becomes a natural part of the environment that everybody can participate in, because the air that you breathe out becomes the stimulant for some other life form to grow by. Wonderful when you understand it. So all three of these letters are pointing to something that breathes in and out, either through the nostrils or through the mouth, but it's breathing in through the nose in this case, and then out through the mouth if necessary. The beautiful thing is that when you study the fitrah of these natural movements in the body, the breathing in through the nose is completely natural. That's how all of us breathe. While we are awake and even while we're asleep, we're still breathing through the nose. If there's an obstruction in the throat or something, then we snore. But other than that, we're breathing normally at night. You can hardly hear us. Sometimes the wife you got to put her finger up under your nostril, make sure you ain't dead in the bed. Go get a mirror. Make sure this man is still breathing. He hasn't moved in about 40 minutes. Yeah, sometimes you wake up and you look at each other, you say, man, it's been 2 hours and she's still in that same position. I hope she's all right. You make a little noise and hope she'll, that's how humans are. We love to know somebody else that we love is all right. But the point here is that it has to do with the taking in and the breathing out. When we do it through our nostrils, it's normal. When you start breathing hard through your mouth, that could be a possible emergency. See, when you start going like that, it means there's an obstruction somewhere. When you go, see that kind of breathing, that's an emergency. You see the difference in the two breathings? And Allah put the apparatus for those two breathings in the word nafs, because the nafs, the soul, is experiencing both of those issues. Breathing in normally It develops a normal soul. Breathing in information that causes obstructions in your system, that's an emergency crew that needs to come out and deal with that. We're talking about the soul. If you're a psychologist, a trained psychiatrist out in the audience, you should be loving this. You should want to talk to me one-on-one. Go to my website and book an hour, and I can give you much more than I'm giving the broader audience. If you're interested in the subject of psychology, we're actually developing a new psychology for a new America as we speak. What I'm saying right now in time will trump what Sigmund Freud established as psychology. I'm taking the best of what they gave in ancient Egypt, which is where Freud got his ideas. I'm taking the best of what they gave as psychology. They were, in fact, historically speaking, the establishers, the original establishers of psychology. And the next ones to take it up another step were the Muslims. They went into ancient Egypt and they refined what they found in ancient Egypt, the 9 parts of the soul and all of that. The Muslims came, and the study of the nafs became the premier study amongst all of the intellectuals of that time, which created the Renaissance amongst other movements in the world that brought refined knowledge into different parts of the earth. Carl Jung and the rest of them, they got a whiff of it. Instructor Bilal is bringing you the fitra-based psychology now. That all you got to do is mix and match with nature and what nature does. Like I'm telling you about the breathing, that's your soul. It's indicative of your soul. The 2 different ways your soul can breathe: easily, supporting natural life, and with effort, which means that your soul is in trouble. The soul of the world right now is in trouble. The soul of America is in trouble. The soul of the United States government is in trouble. The soul of the United States academic system is in trouble. They're breathing hard right now. And we have what it takes to lessen the burden on that breathing. So we don't say get rid of the educational system, get rid of religion, get rid of no, we say just employ our method, our natural fitra-based method for having all of this return to the fitra. Really that simple. And if the system doesn't want to do it, you do it with you and your wife and child and husband and family and neighbors and that kind of thing. You do it. You reestablish the fitra in your own little circle. Yeah. So the soul as the nafs is what I call now the breathing intellect. Your soul has, as a very important part of its constitution, the intellect. The intellect is actually a part of your human soul. They don't tell you that in church. They want you to think your soul is some kind of Holy Ghost or something inside of you, some spirit floating around or whatever. When you die, it floats out of your mouth or whatever, and it goes and inhabits somebody else's body. I don't know what some of these people are thinking about or talking about, but it ain't what the Quran is talking about. This soul is actually the method through which your intellect learns to breathe, survive, and make progress. The nafs. The soul is a composite of both internal emotional learning, taking in information, learning, as well as external environmental teaching. See, once you learn stuff, now you want to teach stuff. You're in a position to teach after you learn, not before you learn. Children have nothing but question marks. Mommy, why did daddy? How come? That's all a baby can have because it comes here empty on the most part. And once its mental cup begins to be filled up, then now it can teach certain things to its younger siblings. Mommy said, don't do it like that. She said, no, she said, do it like this. So now the child is in a position to teach the younger ones because the child has already learned the lessons of that particular activity. So all of that is part and parcel of how the soul is operating. The soul inside, internally, in the emotional sense, everything that hits your human brain's 5 senses begins as feeling. And then you emote that feeling, you send it out. It doesn't begin as an intellectual discussion in the mind. Everything that your eyes, your ears, your taste, your nose, your skin comes in contact with It affects your feelings first in your central nervous system, up and down your spinal cord. It quivers. That's where the first messages are delivered to. They're called feelings. When you tell somebody about them, or when you act out how you're feeling, that's when feelings become emotions. Psychology teachers and professors pay very careful attention to this lesson. Feelings and emotions are not the same thing. You can have feelings inside and nobody knows anything about it except you. You have to tell somebody how you're feeling before they can become emotions. E means to go out motion, outward motion of what? The inward feelings that you had. I hate you. How long you been feeling that way? For 2 years. Well, how come you didn't say nothing? If you don't say anything and you don't act in any way that says you hate me, you hate my guts, like most couples, not most, some couples will express to each other out of frustration, or they don't really mean it all the time. But the point is that until you say something or do something, nobody knows. It just stays as feelings. You psychology majors and masters, I can teach you some things about the surah in the Quran called the elephant. In Arabic, el-fil. El-fil. Just like we're talking about feelings. Remember that ancient story about the people who were in the room with the elephant, the 4 or 5 blind men? They were in a space with an elephant and they were trying to figure out what it was. They're blind, so they had to feel on the elephant. You think that's a coincidence that Allah put that in the Quran as an elephant? El-fil. So one of them felt the trunk and he said, oh, this is an anaconda. Another one felt the legs and he, oh no, this is an oak tree. Another one felt the tail. Oh no, this is a wiggly worm. Another one felt this, they kept feeling around the elephant to try to determine what this was. But what they were using was their limited scope and experience based on the part of the elephant they were privy to. And that's how your feelings are. Your feelings are judging things based on the time and space that you're feeling them in. If you just walk a little bit to the right, you're going to feel different. A little bit to the left, you might feel worse. But that's how the feel operates in you, the feeling. See? So this nafs that is occupying this physical biology we call a body is composed of emotional learning as well as environmental teaching, taking what we learned and sharing it with others in the environment, beginning with our immediate company called family. Information that is shared with the public allows for the development of social consciousness. You've heard me use that term over and over again. When you share information with the public, then it allows for the proper development of social consciousness. No social consciousness, no civilization. We talked about this earlier in the symbol of the sun representing social logic. When the sun doesn't come up and disperse its rays and distribute its rays, then there's no civilization because there's nothing to build upon. You're either scared of everybody because you didn't get a chance to know anybody. The worst of your fears begin to appear. I can't go out while he's out. I can't walk that way while she's there. So you have to get to know each other. Allah says that he created an-nas that we might acknowledge each other. Lita'arafu, that we may at least know something about the surface picture of people and things that we run into. Arafat, to know, but just on like a superficial level, a surface level. You ain't deep into what those people are, but based on the food that they're eating, or based on the language that they're speaking, or based on the clothing that they're wearing. If they're wearing, a whole lot of fur hats and all, they're from a cold climate. See, there's certain things you can determine just on the surface without even talking to the people. See, people wearing feathers in their hat. Well, these are different. This is like a tribe, and they got a lot of birds in their environment, I can tell. And feathers must mean something. This one has a lot more feathers than the squaw, that female over there got 1 feather sticking out the back of her head. People begin to figure these things out on the surface level. That's ta'arafu, li ta'arafu, acknowledging each other, being curious about each other is actually what it means. To arafu is from arafa. It means to know, but to know on what level? Many words in the Quran mean to know. Alama means to gain knowledge, to know. Shara means to know. What are they? Three different words mean to know that Allah uses in the Quran, in some cases almost back to back in some surahs, in Surah 2. So does knowledge have all of these variations and degrees? Yes. Ta'arafu, arafa, yes. That's secondary knowledge. Allah uses the word sha'ara in the Quran, which means that he knew something, but on like an unconscious level. You know how we've been talking about the instinctive mind? It's knowing on the level of the unconscious. That's why Allah says they did such and such, but they were not aware. You see, when Allah says that, he did this, that, and the third, yet they were unaware. Yeah, that's happening in the unconscious part of the mind. Then you do something, and Allah elevates that knowledge up to Arafa. Arafa means to know, but not deep knowledge, to know on the surface of a thing. And you manage that situation based on what you know superficially. They don't seem to be violent. They don't, that kind of thing. Right? Then the higher level, alima, ilma, to know with some deepness attached to it. I don't just know them on the surface. I've looked into these people's behavior. I've looked into their history. See, when you start looking like that, then it becomes alima. And all three of these words contain the letter ain. Sha'ara, sha'ara, shin, ain, ra, arafa, ain, ra, fa, ilama, ain, lam, mim. And what does ain mean? The struggle in the intellect to want to see. The eye. Ain means eye, the struggling eye, though, the one that becomes watery because it's red eye from studying things. Also, the issue in the throat for trying to when there's straining in the throat. You start choking on a bone and say, you gotta get it out of it. See that kind of thing. Or when you're telling your child, didn't I tell you? Don't do that. That's all of those are Arabic letters. When I say Arabic, I don't mean just of the Arabs in Arabia. I'm talking about fitra-based letters, nature-based letters is what I'm talking about. These are sounds that are in the fitra. Baby starts crying, you go, shh, that's sheen. Come on, you can't hear that? Somebody do something that they're ashamed of or that they can't explain, they go, ooh, that's dhamma, that's a vowel. Somebody surprises you with something, you go, that's fatha, vowel. All of these sounds are in the fitra, and Nunetics has captured them all and serving them up to you on a golden platter called Nunetics. Let's finish this and close out by 10, inshallah. So we're talking about the development of social consciousness as it relates to the development of the soul itself. And I've told you that the word soul is related to the word social, and that social is a code word for soul shell, the soul's shell. See? The soul's shell. That's what social is speaking to. When you develop your social nature and you come into instances that allow for social bonding, that is the protection for your nafs, the proper development and activity related to your nafs, your soul. It can't happen if you stay isolated. There's nowhere in the Quran where Allah speaks to a single nafs. It says that he gathered all of the nafs that would ever come into the world, and he asked them a question. Am I not your Rabb? And it says that all of the nafs that were ever in existence, will ever be in existence before we were occupying these physical biologies. This was in a heavenly world somewhere. We don't know where. Allah asked the question, am I not your Rabb, the one who's going to involve you, evolve you, put you out in the world, and then judge you at the end of all of this. And all of the souls said, yay, of course. The word is Bala. Now, if you understand anything about these consonantal connections, and you put together what the letters Ba and Lam mean whenever they're seen together, do it in English. The word, well, let's look at this for a second. I got to show you this. But the word is Bala. That's how they answered. Of course. Of course. It also means yay or yes. So when Allah asked, am I not your Lord? They all said unanimously, yeah, Bala. Look at how beautiful Allah is in the way he executes this language. Let me show you something. All right, let's go to English for a minute. We have the word ball. We have the word balance. I'm looking at BL words now. Okay. If somebody has another BL word in English, just throw it at me for a minute. My brain is a little bit tired now.
Ballot.
Ballot. Oh, lovely. Ooh, nice one. All right.
Bloat.
Bloat. This is great. All right, so bloat. Like, we can stop there. Hold on. Thank you. Ballot has two L's, I think. Yeah. Right. So that ball, and it doesn't matter whether it has two consonants or one. It doesn't matter. It's the L that's important here. Now, let me tell you what all of these have in common. You're going to love this. All of them begin with a certain kind of impetus that we might call fervor. You know, you've seen a man on the high wire trying to get his balance up there with the high wire act, right? He's got the pole and he's concentrating. He's not even looking at the audience. He's looking down and he's taking one step at a time. He's trying to keep his balance. But how long can he do that? Can he do it for a long time? No, he can't stand on that high wire trying to keep his balance for a long period of time, because eventually he's going to fall. He's going to fail. All right. If I have a ball, a little toy ball, I'm playing with my children, I'm rolling it across it. If I rolled it on the sidewalk with all of the power I could thrust to roll that ball as far as I could roll it, it might roll on to the next block. But at some point, it's going to fail. It's going to stop. It's going to run out of steam. If I cast a ballot for somebody, they're either going to win or they're going to lose. Even if they win, my ballot is no longer effective. It's over. The vote has been cast, the die has been cast, the decision has been made, and I don't carry the ballot around in my pocket to say, see, I'm still casting them. No, you're not. You casted the ballot. Get over the fact that your candidate lost. And if you have a bloated area like the belly, if you don't do something about that bloating, you're going to have some serious digestive issues. You got to get you some Tums, some Milex. I don't know what they call all this stuff. I don't take all these drugs. But yeah, you hear about them, Milex, Tums, and Rolaids. You got to take on. If you're bloating, you had better take something to remedy that situation. So bloating has to find its natural course of what you call it, to when you take the steam out of something. Just like a ball, you roll it and it rolls and rolls until it runs out of steam. Well, the bloating has to eventually run out of steam and return your belly to its natural positioning. And trust me, if you do this on your own with BL words, if you think, the Quran says ponder. It doesn't mean quick thoughts will come to your mind. No, Allah says you have to ponder Al-Quran. See? And if you ponder, you're going to find these things being sent to you, like I find them being sent to me. So when they said Bala, look at what they were saying without even knowing they were saying it. But Allah knew, because Allah is the master of these consonantal connections. They were saying, yeah, you are Arab, but at some point we're going to start disobeying you. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Yes, you are, Rob, while we're up here in a heavenly position, but you put us down in the earth and we got to work with the sweat of our brow and then all that, and racism, sexism, and all that gets in the way. Well, maybe around then we're going to start having some questions for you being the one who has evolved us. Bala. There's other words for yes. They could have said nam, like we do when we want to say yes to somebody. Well, I'll put bala in there. Am I not your Lord? They should have said nam, not bala. Look, I was placed in the Quran. Bala doesn't always have the meaning of agreeing with something. Sometimes it has the meaning of not agreeing. You Arabic scholars, you know this. All right. So understand what's being said here. It's temporary agreement with something. Now, Allah says in An-Nisa, the popular ayat, first ayat of this 4th chapter called An-Nisa, they translate as the women. Allah says, Ya ayyuhan nasi, Ya ayyuhan nasu ittaqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahidatin wa khalaqa minha zawjaha wa batha minhuma rijalan kathiran wa nisaan wa ittaqu allaha alladhi tasa'aluna bihi wal arhama inna allaha kana alaykum raqiba. Translated, oh humans, oh mankind. There's another man looking at you. Nas, we'll talk about that next week. Oh mankind, reverence your guardian Lord, your Rabb who created you. Remember, khalaqakum, khalaqa means he programmed you on the subconscious level, especially from what? From a single person. What's that single person? Min nafsin wahidatin. See? Min nafsin wahidatin. From one nafs. From a singular entity. All of mankind, males and females, came from a single nafs. So within that single nafs must have been the ingredients for both male and female properties. And from them both, minhuma, from them both, scattered, and he says like seeds, I love that, countless men and women. Minhuma, from them both, rijalan, males, kathiran, many, wa, and nisa'an, women. Look at how Allah said that. He didn't attach the many to the nisa. He attached it, the many, to the rijal. Biologically speaking, before the birth of any human being, there are many more spermatozoa emitted from the penis and from the testicles than the singular and unique one seed of the female. So he didn't have to created you from plenty females, because he didn't. He created you from one ovum, but plenty sperm. So you can apply this on the biological level, but it's speaking to something much higher, much deeper, much more rewarding than just understanding the biology, because science has already figured that out. So you didn't need the Quran to tell you that. Have taqwa for Allah, through whom you demand your rights, your mutable rights, and have taqwa for the wombs also, the wombs, arham. For Allah ever watches over you. Alaykum raqiba. Alaykum means to be responsible for something that is under your authority. He's talking to the nafs. Allah is saying that he is alaykum raqiba. He is the one, and raqiba actually is referring to the one who has like a leash. Hate to put it like that, but like a leash on an animal that you don't want to get away from you. Allah is responsible for holding on to the leash that allows you to go but so far, like that dog that goes running after the mailman. But he's got that kind of leash that at some point he's like, and that's as far as he can go. Allah said, that's how he has humans. You think you're getting away with so much stuff. You're robbing people, raping people, killing people, setting towns on fire, all kinds of things that the human being is crying. When comes the help of Allah? إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ. When it comes to the help of Allah and the victory that Allah has been promising us. And Allah says in another part of the Quran, the help of Allah is always near. Well, won't get into that. Take too long. Just understand that this is a very important word here. Raqib. Raqib. Very important word. Because the help of Allah is always near is using the word qarib. Qaf, ra, bait. This word is using the same letters. Ra, qaf, bait. And it means to be near. Raqib. From this, you also get the letters for Baqarah. Bait, Qaf, Ra, Baqarah, the heifer. That heifer can be so wild. You got to tame that heifer. You heard that poetry at the beginning from Adil Muhammad. You got to watch over that heifer. Anyway, there's too much to discuss in those connections. Start writing on it, and I'll let you be the presenter in the next week or two. Any of you have that opportunity. All right. Now, lastly, the soul produces both thinkers, rijal, thinkers, as well as feelers, meaning emotional people who they move about based on their feelings, not based on any sound reasoning or anything. I don't know what to tell you about that. I just feel like those people I'm talking about, the feelers. The whole world is full of feelers right now. They're not full of people who are actually engaging their moral and rational faculties to discuss issues and resolve conflicts. So Ar-Rijal represents the thinkers, and An-Nisa represents the feelers, the emotionally oriented ones. It is the emotional nature that gives birth to the intellectual nature. In other words, it is the female, the emotional nature, that gives birth to the male or the intellectual nature. The intellect does not come here first when a baby is born. The emotions arrive first. And the lessons that are learned through the activity taking place in that baby's emotional nature is what brings that baby into information, which then sets the stage for the development of a higher learning process called the intellect. So the female comes first, then the male. The emotions come first, then the intellect. You see how this goes? The moment that we lose the ability to feel correctly, we also lose the ability to think correctly. Mark my words on that one. Judge yourself by that yardstick. You know, the moment when you lost control of your emotions is when you might have ended up in prison or in a fight or, whatever, because you couldn't control that female in you, that heifer that was spoken about in the poetry earlier. That woman that needed to be beat the women when they get out of line. It's not talking about your wife. Who wants to see that happen to their mother and people like that? Because she disagreed with Pops. He popped her in the lip. We're supposed to look at that as children and go, well, Allah said they can do that in the Quran. Going against your own nature. Don't do that. The moment we lose the ability to feel correctly, to judge a situation based on how it has morally impressed us or depressed us, it is at that same moment that we lose the ability to make logical, rational, moral choices. You will not continue to grow intellectually if you maintain that position. Correct thinking is charged with being the authority over keeping the feelings properly directed. The vision is in the head. The eyes are actually literally attached to the brain. The heart is the centerpiece of the torso, and has to depend on the vision of the brain to give it its direction. The heart is influencing the decisions of the brain. The heart, as Imam Muhammad once said, is actually requisitioning the brain. Do this, do that. That's like the wife will requisition the husband. I need this, I need that to continue the household, everything running smooth, get the children to school on time, get them properly fed. I need food on this day, at this time, I need this much money to shop with. See, the wife, she requisitions the husband to do or to provide those things. And in the same way, the heart requisitions the thinking brain and the thinking mind to go out in search of and bring back this idea and bring back that invention and bring back and bring back and bring back. We're talking about the fitra-based human system that produces both males and females, both men and women, and what man and woman means in scripture as properties that are equally shared by both male biology and female biology alike. 23 chromosomes, equaling 46. He doesn't have more feminine chromosomes. You don't have more masculine chromosomes. That means that whatever influences are coming out of your chromosome body of cells, they're able to express those concerns equally. So I can understand a man with feminine tendencies or female that has more masculine tendencies, but it doesn't mean that female has to be a man or want to be a male or want to be a man once they have a sex change. It doesn't mean it's supposed to lead to all of that. Those are just innate qualities in your DNA and your chromosomes. I love the feminine qualities in me. I got plenty of them. I got it from my mama. To be kind and compassionate and listen more than I talk and all of the, I love that. That doesn't make me want to be a female. My sister's got a lot of male tendencies. She never wanted to be a man. But we're going to teach that to our 10-year-olds now, that if you just feel feminine, you should get an operation to become a female. Don't let these demons touch our children. After this series on the men and women in scripture, I'm going to be doing one called They're Coming for Our Children. Now, that's not to make you go, oh, no. That's just to alert your cognitive brain, your neocortex, to begin psychologically and emotionally preparing for what I see now as being an inevitability. And that is that they are putting plans in place to come get our children, to hold on to our children, to do what they want to our children, to even marry our children. I'm talking about to marry a 10-year-old. A 6-year-old, and you dummies calling yourselves hadith scholars, you don't understand that they have been setting you up for the past 1,000 years for this day. You think this kind of depravity was not in play during the days of the ancient Greeks? A lot of this was born out of ancient Greece. This perversity I'm talking about, the homosexuality and all the rest of that, it was born out of Greece. They had statues of penises that they used to worship. Statues. They'd walk through the streets, just like the gay and lesbian and the GLKPDT community are doing now. They were just walking. They got effigies, whatever you call it, effigies or whatever, of the very, very lewd and sometimes nude figures. In fact, some of them are nude, riding around on bicycles and all that kind of. This is just ancient Greece all over again, to the 10th power that we're living in this day and time. And they want to use America as the new womb for their experiments, for their psychological drifting of ideas. Yeah, they want to use America for that purpose. This is the last rodeo. This is the last, what do they call it? Hurrah. This is Satan knowing that he's about to drown, and he's going to kick and scream and try to pull you into the water with him because he doesn't like to die alone. This is not the first time this has happened in history. History keeps on revisiting itself, repeating itself. This is not the end of the world like Armageddon and no more earth and no more skies and everything burns up to a crisp. This point we're in right now has happened over and over again, and more recently in history than you've been made to believe by reading your so-called history books, which are really fabrications of history. Some of the stuff that you think happened 2,000 years ago happened 400 years ago. How would you know? So the truth is starting to be revealed through people who are doing extra added research into these areas. And they're starting to say, well, wait a minute, all of even the issues with American style slavery are not what they said it was. Who was a slave? Who was brought here as a slave? Who was already here that they called a slave after they got here? Who were involved? Were these all so-called white folks involved in the enslavement of Africans? Or were there some other nefarious hands in the pot, stirring the pot of racism? Racism wasn't born in Europe or America. There were so-called white folks in Africa before the transatlantic slave trade. They have writings from so-called European writers who were admiring the build and the constitution of Africans and how well put together they were, how strong they were, and how smart they were. This is in books already, prior to the transatlantic slave trade. All of a sudden, these people just turned around and said, I'm going to be naturally racist towards these people because I'm jealous of them, because I hate them, I envy them, I want their women. It didn't all happen like that in a vacuum. I'm sorry, it just didn't happen like that. So pay attention to history from this point forward. Pay attention to alternative narratives concerning history. You got people right now doing their DNA testing. They say, well, man, I thought I was all African, and I'm finding out now I got folks in my blood from China, from India. You keep saying I'm black, 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 black. But your DNA says you're not in the way that you think you are. What is all of this pointing us towards in my conclusion? Is pointing us to the idea that if you're going to study yourself as a human with human constitution, you have to make that your priority study, not your blackness, not your whiteness, not your redness, your yellowness, your brownness. You can't make color consciousness your end goal. You can use it to flavor the food along the way and make it taste better, but that's not where the nutrition is. It's not in the salt and pepper. It's in the meat. And the meat for us is in what constitutes a true human. And a true human is what scriptures are talking about when they give the term man and woman. Those are two constitutions that are in every male and female. Man is the thinking part that makes moral and rational decisions. Woman is the feeling part that makes emotional decisions based on what feels right intuitively, on the most part, emotionally. Can't see it all down there, but I feel that something's wrong with this deal he's trying to get me to buy into. So these two things are operating simultaneously within the human system. And that's what man and woman mean in scripture, on the most part, given through different terms. We're going to be going through some of the Hebrew terms this time next week. Terms for man and woman in the Hebrew Bible, in the Torah, etc., Old Testament, if you will. We're going to go through what those languages, not what the English language says about men and women or males and females. When we get to the Quran, we're not going to be talking about the English translations of what the Quran says is a male and a female or a man and a woman. We're going to go into the original Arabic terms for that. When we get to the New Testament, we're going to go into the Greek terms for man and woman and see where those terms came from and what they mean. That's when you're going to get further insight into what the Creator means and meant when he put those words into his words of revelation. And you won't be confused anymore after that unless you just choose to be. We don't know what Adam means because they never taught us in church that when it says man in the Genesis, that the word is Adama, Adama. We don't know what Adama means. Nobody told us. In all those years of church, nobody said, in this one word here is out of the Hebrew language, and it means thus and such and such. They didn't tell us when the Bible said, I'm going to create a woman, or created a woman from the rib of man. They didn't tell us what the Hebrew word was for rib. They didn't tell us what the Hebrew word was for Eve, the woman, what the word woman means. In scripture, where did that word come from? What other words is it related to? What is God really saying to me? If I just apply myself and dig deeper than I've been trained to dig with this special shovel called Nunetics. Now you have a special golden shovel. First thing you want to use that shovel for is to shovel all of the shit they've taught you off of you. Just start shoveling. Use Nunetics to shovel that shit off of you, excuse the expression. Don't worry, it's a golden shovel. It won't stick. Just rinse it. And then you can use it to begin digging deep. Beneath the surface of what they've been telling you is the truth about scripture and what a human being is and what a male is and what a female is and what your child and children are in the eyes of the source creator who created them. Why do we treat them so lackadaisically? Our children, they got 1,000 children missing in Maui, and nobody's asking important questions except the people on the low ends of the scale. Where are all our children? Where'd they disappear to? We can't find them. They go into the homes. They have no account of them. There are about 600 of them missing from school that didn't return to the schools. Where are our children? But the police department, the government department, the fire department, they're not asking those questions because they don't really know what a true person is, a woman. What does the word person mean? What does the word individual mean? What does the word, we don't know what these terms mean, so we can't really connect emotionally with this information. They become just water off a duck's back. That's why we use the terms, my nigga, this nigga did this nigga did that, because we really don't know what a nigga is. Once you know what it is, then you have a better way of choosing whether I'm going to continue using this or not. We don't know what black means. I'm a black man. We don't know what that means. We don't know where the term black came from and when it first started being applied to humans. We don't know what folks meant when they first called themselves white people. In fact, white people out of Europe, they weren't the first ones to call themselves white people. It was a whole nother people that started that. They started it in India. I was going to say that earlier. The white racism that we know right now began on the continent or the sub portions of India, but we don't know that. But we're going to learn that before this series is over. So thank you. I'm going to leave you with this nursery rhyme. Jack and Jill went up the hill. Remember that one? To fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. Now, we think this is talking about a little boy and a little girl climbing up some hill. And for no reason whatsoever that's explained in the nursery rhyme, Jack fell down. But who is Jack? Jack represents the human intellect. The human intellect likes to climb. And of course, if he broke his crown, it means that he represented the authority. He was the leader. So the leadership fell down. Sound familiar? The authority figures fell down. Jack was originally inclined to climb higher and higher. Every time you see the word Jack in a nursery rhyme, it's talking about something that is attempting to reach higher and higher levels. See, Jack and the Beanstalk. See, Jack and Jill going up the hill. You play a game of jacks. What do? You throw the jacks down on the floor, then you throw the ball up, and then you try to scoop the jacks up. See, there's always an upward motion when Jack is mentioned. If your car catches a flat, you use what? A jack to lift up the car. Jack is always involved in an upward movement. It's from the word Jacob. It's from the Bible. It's from the Jacob story where Jacob climbed up a ladder into heaven to steal the heavenly fire. Jacob, Jack, is a shortened form of the name Jacob. We're going to go into the names of these males and females in scripture in time. Just stick with us. If you're not officially registered for this class, please do yourself the favor and the honor of becoming an official part of this university online learning course. Is not going to be offered for free every week like this in the very near future. Things will be changing, and if you're not directly plugged in, you're going to miss it, and that would be a shame. So Jack is the intellect. Jill, on the other hand, represents his counterpart, the emotions, but not just any emotions. Jill represents the wayward, the emotions that have gone, and Darlene is gone way astray. It's talking about two properties existing within the human makeup, the human psychic makeup. How your mind works to elevate you, but how your wayward emotions can work to bring you down from that high pedestal that you have achieved. Jill is from the word jilt. Look at the dictionary meaning: to deceive, especially after holding out hopes. To discard after encouraging. Isn't this something? To cheat, to trick. That's what it meant even earlier on than that. I told you about that song by the Stylistics, Break Up to Make Up. That's all I do. First you love me, then you hate me. That's a game for fools. Break up to make up. That's all we do. First you love me, then you jilt me. That's a game for fools. He was being jilted. Yeah. That's your Jack and Jill. Jack is the effort in the intellect to reach higher levels. Stevie Wonder called it higher ground. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to keep on trying till I reach my higher ground. That's Stevie talking. Right? But the jilting is when the emotions decide to take the lead, to become an artificial authority in you. And you start following your feelings. As the young folks say, you living in your feelings, yo. Stop living in your feelings, yo. They're smart. That's a smart saying by the young folks. You can't be living in your feelings, right? So Jack is the intellect, the authority. The authority falls down and breaks its crown. And then Jill has no choice but to come tumbling after. If you look up tumble in a good dictionary, it's going to say to become confused. To tumble means to become confused, emotionally confused. Now, when that happens, let's look further into the language. The Arabic word Jill or Jalla, Jim, Lam, Lam, just like in Jill, J-L-L, to be thick, gross, coarse, rough, rugged, rude, big, bulky, to be great in size or estimation or rank or dignity, to be independent, glorious, majestic, to be old or advanced in age, but also to be young or not of fit age. Thus, the verb jalla bears two contradictory significations. Firm or sound in judgment, that's how your emotions can be. To be eminent, your emotions can be regal, royal. To be noble or dignified, honorable, mighty. To take the main part or portion of a thing. Now listen here. This Jill can also be mount, to mean mount, ascend, like she was doing with the Jack by her side. To ascend upon, to cover a thing. To be exalted or magnificent, to give much or many. To move about or shuffle a thing. To sink or become depressed. This is speaking about your human emotionality, y'all. To sink or become depressed. To sever, meaning to separate. Distressing, momentous, formidable. All of that is connected to jalla, Jill, jilting, back and forth. You can be noble one moment and be a terror the next moment. And they were going up a hill, weren't they? The hill, I believe, is speaking to the pineal stone, the pineal gland sitting in the middle of your brain. That's responsible for what I call supra-intuitive enlightenment. It's there as an assistant to your intellect. When your intellect has done all that it could do to lead you into enlightenment, but the intellect is severely limited because it has to constantly separate things in order for stuff to make sense. It's got to constantly divide and separate ideas that come. I can use this, I can't use that. I can use that. I don't need this more anymore. I don't need this much of that. I need more of the other thing. That's what the intellect simply means, internal election. That's what the word means. To choose things, to choose from things, to elect things on the inside. Another word for it is your moral nature. Once you choose something because you believe it's morally right for you, then you begin to rationally apply the solution to the thing that you've chosen. Rationally apply the usage of that, the thing that you chose. That's what the intellect is designed to do. But it's got to keep separating out things. It's guessing on the most part what's good and what's not good, depending on what has been taught. The pineal gland is not guessing about what has been taught. The pineal gland is actually connected to the cosmos. That's a subject for another day. But the pineal is cosmically connected. It can tap into resources of information and knowledge and wisdom and science that you never would be able to learn in a school. But the pineal gland, that effort to come into that level of knowledge has to be conditioned. That's what true salat is for. You'll get that in my next book. That's what the practice of true salat is speaking to. The connection. They say this word salat means to connect. But the connection with what? The connection with your supra-intuitive cord. Allah speaks about the rope of Allah. Do not let the rope of Allah, don't let that rope go. Hold on to the rope of Allah. What rope is that? The umbilical cord? No, it's just a sign of what Allah is speaking of as an abstract, something that you will eventually grow up to and into if you're paying attention. Oh my goodness. There's just too much to cover in one night. So the hill is the pineal stone. Look at the dictionary definition for hill. This is from the Etymology Online Dictionary. You can look it up for yourself. Hill, Hulni, Germanic. Hull, hill. Old Norse, they had the word hallra, hallra. What does it mean? Stone. The Gothic word, hallas, it also comes from, what does that mean? Rock. So hill is just a code word for rock and stone. And what is the stone in the human psychic makeup? It's the pineal stone. It's in the Bible, in the story of Jacob, where he wrestled with the angel next to a stone called Peniel, of all names, Peniel. He wrestled with an angel and won. They said the angel was actually God. And it says that he won, and the angel threw his thigh bone out of socket. But unless you know what thigh means on the abstract symbolic level, that the story is of no usage to you. You think it's a physical guy up there in the physical heaven, seventh heaven, after climbing up the ladder, Jacob's ladder. He got to the top. He saw an angel. The angel said, "What are you doing up here?" He started wrestling with the angel. He threw his thigh bone out of socket. And then Jacob was conferred upon him a new name called Israel. You think that's literal? Stop wasting that kind of time. Stick and stay in this class. You'll learn better than that. So how did the human being, subject for next week, you have joined us on a night when we have begun part 1 of the meaning of man in both the Bible and the Quran. Well, then how did the human being in man's secret language become a monster? Do you know that if you look in what's called Black's Law Dictionary, it's a legal dictionary, you look up the word human, it's going to say monster. How did that happen? How is it that some people in secret circles, in secret society, sometimes in the Masonic circles and Shriner circles, and they have different meanings for these words that you and I have other meanings for. And one of the meanings that's well known amongst these people of secret circles is that human, they don't even like to be called human, because they say the word human in Black's Law Dictionary means monster. I don't want to be called a monster, but you don't understand that these people are not talking morally and ethically. They are talking subconsciously and scientifically. Scientifically, we have been created as monsters, not by the source creator, by the manipulators of human life, who create their own versions of what the creator already created. And they say, we can do it better than God. He created man. They say, let us create man. That's right there in the Bible, Genesis. Who's this us? Let us create man in our image and likeness. In the Quran, Allah says, I am about to create a Khalifa. He doesn't know us and we. In the Bible, it says, let us create man. Who's the us? What's the name for that us in the Bible? Those are the questions we're going to be addressing next week. Isn't this wonderful? Those are the questions. Who is this we, this us? Who is this monster that Black's Law Dictionary keeps talking about as a human? How did they get the word monster out of the word human? We're going to be breaking down the word human, what man means in the Bible, what human means in the Bible, and how it became, in their language, a monster. I'm going to give you just a sneak peek into what's coming. Next class will be this Tuesday, September 12th, 7 p.m. Make sure that you get onto my email list if you're not a regular. I'm going to put my email address here. You email me and I will send you the link when it's ready. And we're through.
Instructor, I want to bring to your attention, Dr. Harper is with us.
Yes.
Yes,
Great.
he has a youth organization.
Okay.
He's working with here in Atlanta. And he calls it Project Keep 'Em Off the Streets.
I'd like to hear from him if he's got a couple of minutes to join us. I'd certainly like to hear from him. So those of you who need to know when the next class is, just email me at Cosmic Quran 1. Tell me that you were here today and that you would like the link sent for the Tuesday evening class at 7 o'clock. It's that simple. But the monster that they're talking about is the moon star that they've sold to the majority of the Muslim world's population. You think it's a good sign and a good symbol. I'm going to show you how it has two varying applications. So thank you all for being with me. Don't disappear. We want to hear from our brother, Dr. Harper. Is he available?
Sure. Greetings, everyone.
Yes.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Yes, my name is Dr. Harper, president and founder over at Project Keep 'Em Off the Street, acronym PCOTS, youth-focused organization that deals with financial literacy and youth development, per se. Anything that you wanted to, Mr. Williams, wanted me to elaborate on it or something?
No, just give him an idea of the kind of programs you have.
Right. So financial literacy, boy to man, we deal with the bullying. We have a program that is for girl to woman. So we have a plethora of programs. As I spoke on the show the other day, this program is actually, my darkness to light on what I saw. And I actually became to be what I didn't have, if that makes sense. So I'm just a survivor of gun violence and the prison system and all of those things. Mm-hmm. I moved forward and was able to get my criminal record a full pardon. So I kind of, when I went through the penal system, I just kept a lot of information upon my release. And I just compiled a lot of information myself, saying that, I was able to see the light and see what was wrong and call myself putting together some answers to some old age questions and just started to enlighten myself so I can give back to our other brothers and sisters.
That is so beautiful. Is there a website or something that we can visit that you have up and running?
There is. It's pretty generic, but it is on the World Wide Web. It is pcots.org.
Hold on one moment. I want to put that on the piece of paper here. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. This is important information. Okay. Go right ahead.
It is pcots.org.
PC?
PCOTS, PKOTS.
KOTS.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the acronym. Yes. .org. Okay. That's the acronym for Project Keep 'Em Off the Streets.
EM for M? Like that? Keep him?
Yeah.
Yes. Apostrophe is correct. Correct.
Okay. Keep them off the streets. Right. Project. Let me make this correction.
Most people say Project Keep the Kids Off the Street, but it's Project Keep Them Off the Streets.
Got you. Very good. So I'm going to be looking into that before I go to bed tonight.
And instructor,
Yeah, let me just put his name down so we'll remember who we're talking to. Dr. Harper, is it?
Harper, yes, Harper.
Gotcha. Yes, sir. Go right ahead, instructor.
This brother takes his family with him when he goes to important meetings. He don't just come by himself.
Uh-huh.
He has three children, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The building of a nation, right?
Yeah. And you're located there in Atlanta?
Yes, Cobb County to be exact.
Yeah. So hopefully the next time I visit Atlanta, which should be within the next month or so, I'd like to seriously meet with you.
Not a problem at all.
Yeah.
We look forward to it.
I had my children here, some of my sons and daughters, actually. I have 8 children total myself. My wife has 3 of her own. And we were here this morning. One of my daughters and 2 of my sons and their mates were here. And we had a nice 4-hour rendezvous of just questions and answers about serious things that we were going through. No television, no people looking at their cell phones. No, everybody was attentive, and everybody had to, it was 7 or 8 of us in a circle, and everybody had to give an answer to the questions that were being asked. And had I thought to record this, man, we would have had, what do they call, one of those reality TV shows? And it would have been such a wonderful thing for other youth to witness. My youngest child is 22. And my daughter's like a couple of years after him. And then I got some that are in between that were there, and they were just contributing marvelously to this circle. But if you have some type of video or like I said, the website, I'm definitely going to share this with them. And they travel with me sometimes when I ask them to. But I definitely want them to at least be aware of the efforts that are taking place in your neck of the woods regarding.
Please, thank you. But please visit our social media for all videos and updates. Like I said, the website is just pretty generic, but for a visual, I would lead anyone to any of the social medias via Instagram or Facebook. That is where all the visual it really is.
That's fine. And they can access those through the website, the .org. Can you access your Facebook and your Instagram?
I think Facebook, but if I can give it out, it's Instagram is Peacocks_Inc.
Hold on, let me get my page back up. Hold on, let's see. This is important. Hold on. Okay, give it to me. This is Instagram.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go right ahead.
It is PCOTS, the acronym for Project Keep 'Em Off the Streets.
Right.
_Inc. And it's PK, not C. PKOTS.
Okay, great. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. Okay. Is it okay that I capitalize, or should I make them small letters?
It's probably would be small letters. Social media should pull up either way, but yeah.
Yeah, it should. Okay, PKOTS_Inc.
Yes, INC.
Gotcha.
And Facebook is the same, but it's PCOTS Incorp on Facebook.
Inc. Spell that out for me. Okay.
2 words. Incorp. INCORP. 2 words.
CORP. Gotcha. Is that a .com or something?
No, it's just PCOTS Incorp.
Okay,
2 words.
Facebook. Okay, PCOTS. Hold on. Separated here.
Please.
All right. I think we got it. So folks, learners, and others who are interested, please look them up at these respective sites. And hopefully, Doctor, we can have you back to make a full-blown presentation on what it is you do. If you want us to watch a particular video on YouTube or anything that you have prepared, feel free. We would be honored if you would come and give us a 15-minute to 30-minute presentation of anything that you're doing, especially if it's related to helping our youth.
I would be honored. One of our slogan is, it's okay to dream, just don't sleep too long.
That's nice. All right. And like I always say, it's okay to be awake, just don't be woke. Woke is past tense. All right. Thank you. So I'm going to hand the microphone back to William Safi for any closing remarks that he may have. And inshallah, that's all that we have to offer tonight. And if you wait for this video to cook, I will send it to everybody who I have an email address for. So again, if you are not a regular visitor to this class, simply send me an email to cosmicquran1@gmail.com, and I will happily send you free of charge what you've witnessed today in this class and anything you may have missed.
Yes, well, I just want to encourage everyone still to pace yourself. If you can do one module per week, per letter, do that. If you can do two, if you can do three, now is the time for us to get engaged and become very serious about getting actively engaged in applying ourselves to a point where these meanings, these influences, even the frequencies become a part of us. You know, that's what time we're in right now. Instructor and I are working diligently to go live. By the way, the meeting he was at, the sister that was there, I put you on the phone with her when I was there. She some reason couldn't make it, but it was her intent to be here. But she wants to work with us as well.
She's a beautiful soul.
Yes, and Dr. Harper does as well. So we're planning very soon. We have people who are working in the broadcasting industry, some of whom are more established than others, and she is. And she's ready and willing to support us in any way that she can. So again, learners, no excuses. You know, get on a regular schedule for yourself. Do at least one module per week, 10 to 15-minute module. Take a letter. Those of you who are working in the Atlanta area, you're already doing that in the class, but take that information that you're sharing in the class and put it on an actual model, where a module rather, where you do the recording, do the writing, and then record it. And soon we'll have Kareem Abdul Salam go ahead and do the webinar for us, so they can have another level of training on that. But that's what's more important now than anything else.
Great. And we thank Imam Kareem for what he's doing in the Atlanta area. I can't wait to get back there and visit his works also. And once again, thank you to those participants in today's webinar. Our dear sister Adila Muhammad for her wonderful presentation, and Muhammad Alim Ali for his scholarly presentation. I think both of you, anybody in this class can make such presentations. All you have to do is let the instructor know what it is you want to do, run some of it by me, get my okay, flesh out whatever the weak parts of it might be, if any, and then make your presentation properly that following week. So have your voices heard. I don't want to be a person speaking to people in the bleachers. You know, you don't need to be sideline participants in this when you can be right there in the front row. That's what we want for each and every one of you as learners. You don't have to be teachers and preachers and speakers like we are, but at least let us know that you are absorbing this information. You're not realizing yet how vitally important this information is going to be, probably to your survival. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just saying there are going to be certain things that if you don't know them, you ain't gonna make it through what they're planning for society over the next couple of years. If you don't know things and what to do in the event of certain happenings and occurrences, you're going to be in trouble. And I'm telling you way ahead of time so that you can do what smart people do. Prepare yourselves. And it's better to be prepared and have nothing happen than to have something happen and not be prepared at all. So thank all of you for your time and attention, listening to us as I greet you in the greetings of peace that obligate each and every one of us to keep the peace. That is Salamun Alaikum to you all. Peace be upon you.
Walaikum salam.
Walaikum salam.
Walaikum salam.
Waalaikum salam.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum.
What's that?
Alaikum salam. Good hearing from all of you. Good seeing all of you.